Marrying for money sucks and I do not recommend it. Married a 40-year-old when I was 19. Started dating when I was 17. Yes, it was gross, but that's what happened. The only reason he married me is because I was hot. The only reason I married him is because he had money. I actually do have other redeeming characteristics, but he married me because I was hot. I know this. Everyone knows this. It doesn't feel great, but I can deal with it. We've been married 20 years. 4 kids. So we are stable and we have lots in common at this point. And we do love each other. But if I could go back and slap myself, I would. What nobody tells you, or they try and you don't listen because you're a dumbass teenager, is that marrying like this means you will fucking owe him. For everything. Every goddamn day. Not just in the bedroom but in every other matter in your life. The stuff you never imagined someone else trying to decide for you. And you don't just owe him for the money. It's a lot heavier than that. He'll never say it out loud. But you'll know the deal. Fundamentally unequal. He'll pull rank at the most random times and it will make you feel like you're falling through the floor. I don't hate my life or anything. I accept that I made this bed and I have to lie in it, but I wouldn't recommend it to anyone else. My oldest daughter is 2 years younger than I was when I met my husband and I can't imagine. Stories number 2. Am I the asshole for kicking my fiancée out of the house after finding out she lied about being infertile? My fiancée, 30F, and I, 33M, have been together for 4 years and engaged for 1. Early in our relationship, she told me she was infertile due to a medical condition she had in her teens. I was fine with this, as I've never really wanted biological kids and figured we could explore adoption if we ever changed our minds. Fast forward to last week. I came home to a positive pregnancy test sitting on the bathroom counter. At first, I thought she might have been helping a friend, but when I confronted her, she broke down and admitted she's not infertile. She never was. Apparently, she lied because she thought I'd leave her if I knew she could have kids, since she knew I didn't want them. Here's the kicker, she says she stopped taking birth control a few months ago, without telling me because she wanted to see if I'd change my mind about fatherhood if it just happened. I was furious and told her this was a massive betrayal. I feel like my trust in her is shattered. She argued that she did it because she loves me and wanted us to have a deeper connection through a family. I told her I needed space and asked her to leave the house. Now she's staying with her sister and texting me non-stop, saying I'm overreacting and being cruel by kicking out the mother of my child. Her family is also chiming in, calling me a deadbeat dad for abandoning her during pregnancy. I'm struggling because I never wanted kids, but now one is on the way, and I feel trapped. At the same time, I can't get over the fact that she lied to me for years and manipulated me into this situation. Am I the asshole for asking her to leave, or am I justified in needing time to process this betrayal? Stories number 3. My 45M wife, 29F, just found out she's pregnant. I had a vasectomy 10 years ago. I had a vasectomy during my first marriage, my ex and I had 3 kids, we were done, it just made sense. I got married last year after 3 years of dating. My wife has never given me any indication to believe she is cheating, in fact she is an extremely loyal, attentive spouse. To top it all off, I work from home. I literally don't know when she would have the time to have an affair unless she was doing it at work. We always have our locations on our iPhones and I have noticed no secretive or suspicious behavior. When we first found out she was incredibly shocked but ultimately very happy and said, in between tears, that she guessed the vasectomy failed. I've Googled it. We're looking at about a 1% probability that this happened. So basically I have 2 choices, ask my wife for a paternity test and either have my suspicions confirmed, and my marriage over, or her trust in me shattered. Or I say nothing and live with this gnawing suspicion until our child is born and I can quietly perform a paternity test. I am so torn up about this, my wife is already planning the nursery and I am sitting here wondering if I should be hating her or myself. Update. Hello all, a few of you might remember my last post. My wife found out she was pregnant unexpectedly and I, having had a vasectomy 10 years ago, couldn't get over the suspicion of cheating. I took everyone's advice and got the vasectomy checked. Lo and behold, my doctor tells me my sperm count is very low, but still, there are sperm present. It explains why we've been having unprotected sex for years and never had a problem, but also why my wife is now pregnant. I was equal parts relieved and ashamed of myself. My wife is a wonderful person and she shows me every single day how much I mean to her. And I suspected her of cheating before I suspected an issue with the vasectomy. I have thought about coming clean to my wife and telling her what I did, but on the other hand she is so happy and excited. She's showing quite a bit now and everywhere we go, people tell her she is glowing. Our relationship is the best it's ever been and I don't think it's right to burst her bubble to alleviate my own guilt. All I can do is be the best husband I can to her through this pregnancy and get ready to be a dad at 46. Thanks to everyone for their suggestions, I just wish I had thought of it myself before jumping to horrible conclusions. Stories number 4. Am I the asshole here for setting a woman straight when she claimed to be my husband's work wife in my house? I am posting this on a second account because I don't want to have it on my main. I, 30F, am married to my husband Nick, 35M, and we have a happy marriage. We have been together for 7 years and we are currently trying for a baby. The company where my husband works informed the employees that they will not have a Christmas party this year due to them trying to cut out costs. Some of the guys from his department decided to have something small between them. My husband asked if they can have their gathering at our place and I said sure. I was also excited to see 2 of his colleagues because they worked with me in the past and I wanted to catch up with them. So we hosted last weekend. My husband invited the 2 colleagues I mentioned earlier who came with their wives, another guy who is also a good friend of ours and one woman, Lily, who also works with them. We had a great time and it was very nice for me to be able to see my former colleagues. They were telling me stories from their office and we really had fun remembering our time working together. Lily however was very awkward but I assumed she was just stressed meeting new people. However she started saying strange things. At first she mentioned how disappointing it must be for my husband that I don't work in the same field as him because we most likely can never share anything professionally. Then she said how lucky I am to be able to have my career while being so young. For info, I have a high management position and I work in a mostly male-dominated field. The thing is that she was seemingly nice and sweet when saying these things but I can easily detect when people are trying to be passive-aggressive or imply things. Later on Nick was sorting an order out in the kitchen with our friend and I was in the living room with the rest. We were having a drink and the guys were mocking my husband's habits of not paying attention during meetings. Lily then said that it's good that Nick has his work wife there to make life easy for him. I was confused and asked what a work wife was. Lily laughed and asked me how is it possible to not know what a work wife was. The 2 other wives backed me up and mentioned they never heard this term either, so Lily explained that a work wife is a woman who works closely with a guy, knows him very well and helps him out at work, therefore acting as his wife. She also told me I don't need to feel insecure or jealous because there is nothing wrong with it. In that moment I was pissed but kept my cool and responded to her smiling that I have no reason to feel insecure since I am the legal wife and actually the only legally and morally recognized partner of my husband. I added that it seems she does not know my husband that well because if she did she would have known that we are not the jealous type since his best friend is a girl and I also have male friends. I think her comments rubbed everyone present the wrong way because when my husband came from the kitchen, one of the guys loudly asked him something along the lines, "Dude, have you ever heard of walk wives?" And my husband, in his own characteristic way, made a face and said, "No, WTF is that?" After everyone left I told my husband what happened and he said Lily is crazy because they are not close and she is in no way anything else to him other than a work colleague. I truly believe my husband and I surely know he does not encourage Lily in this. But today Nick told me that Lily has been complaining around the office that I was rude to her while she was a guest in my house and that I humiliated her in front of her colleagues. The guy who is my former colleague and who was present when this happened defended me in their office and told her that maybe she should not try to stir shit in other people's homes and that even his own wife was bothered by what she said. It is sweet that my former colleague defended me and I appreciate it, but this caused Lily to tell their colleagues that me and the wives are jealous of her and ganged up against her. My husband and the guys have been telling people that her claims are not true but I feel bad. So what I am asking is, was I really that rude to her? I know my faults and I know I have a temper and I am impulsive, so now I think that all this office drama could have been avoided if I did not answer back. Stories number 5. Am I the asshole for telling my MIL if she keeps rearranging my kitchen she can get a hotel room? I, 29F, am married to a wonderful man, 30M, who is also the brother of my best friend. Our heights are very different with me being 6 feet 6 inches and him being 5 feet 7 inches, all of his family are on the short side and it led to some adjustments in our living arrangements at first but we found what worked for us. We realized early on that it was easier for him to use a step stool to reach what he needed in the kitchen than for me to constantly be crouching to get what I need, as that gets painful quickly for me. This was fine, until my MIL came to stay with us 2 weeks ago. Her roof needs repairs, my husband and I have a spare room while my best friend doesn't, so it was only logical she come stay with us. She has constantly been moving things about in the kitchen, lowering items as she doesn't want to use the step stool, which isn't anything to do with her age or fearing she'll fall, she just doesn't want to. She keeps harping on about how it's ridiculous everything is so high up and it's rude for guests. My husband has repeatedly shut her down, stating my comfort matters more than theoretical guests, and asked her not to move things. She lets it go for a day, then things are moved again. I've expressed frustration to my husband about this, and the final straw came today when I went to make myself a coffee and could not find my coffee mugs anywhere. It took me 5 minutes to find them in my kitchen, and I found them in the lower cabinet that I had to kneel to get them out of. I was angry and snappish at this as my back had hurt from getting my mug, and I told her if she couldn't stop herself from rearranging my kitchen she could get a hotel room, as I have had enough of her entitlement. This led to a lot of blustering and some tears that she was just trying to make it make more sense, and how this is her son's home and how it's just a little reorganization and that they shouldn't all suffer just because I'm tall. She then also began to say how I'm heartless to expect her to stay in a hotel over the holidays. My husband was clearly uncomfortable at this and didn't want his mother upset, but he told her that it wasn't just his home, but mine too, and if she wouldn't respect my comfort and happiness then she would have to leave. She has went into the guest room and I can hear her crying still. My husband is clearly getting anxious and upset over this, but he's not backing down, and I feel awful that my snapping led to him feeling like this. Maybe I should have just put up with it or been more gentle about how I dealt with it. I honestly don't care that she's upset, which may make me sound heartless, but I hate that my husband is feeling this way. Stories number 6. My BF, 28M, got me a huge surprise gift that I, 23F, think ruined my Christmas. We have been together for 3 years, but this has been the first time we are financially stable enough to actually get a Christmas tree, a good haul of gifts, and decorate our apartment. This was always my favorite time of the year as a kid. I grew up in kind of an abusive family where I was forced to be an adult at a young age to take care of my siblings while my parents constantly worked and broke up and threw each other out, but everyone just seemed happy around the holidays. We both live across the country from our families and see them a few times a year for a week or so at a time. We budgeted enough to splurge a little this year, and we both started good jobs at the start of the year that gave us both bonuses. Together our bonuses are a combined $1,500, and we agree this is the firm budget for Christmas gifts, split evenly. I know it seems like a lot, but there are several things we have both gone without for a while when we were struggling for the first couple years of our relationship financially. We both desperately needed new clothes and a few other miscellaneous items. We both prepared lists of clothes, shoes, cologne, perfume, things for our apartment like a rice cooker, new bedding, some items for our dog. In total I bought him everything on the list. I told him several times that I was so excited for our first real Christmas together, emphasis on our Christmas, and I told him over and over again how extremely romantic and intimate I thought it was going to be. In my head we would simply have a low-key Christmas, stay in, cook a big meal, mess around in bed for most of the day and play video games or something. I felt like I communicated this clearly and we both agreed. I know for sure we talked about it and he never seemed to contest or ask for anything else. We spent the entire month of November talking about our mutual excitement and seeking out activities for us to do together, dates, board games, etc. We had a few dates planned. I don't know what came over him last night, but he decided to tell me my Christmas gift early. He spent a large portion of my gift budget on a plane ticket for my kid sister, orchestrated and planned with my parents to send her to our apartment to spend Christmas with us. And got my sister some gifts to open on Christmas morning so she wouldn't feel left out. He has a whole week planned for him, me, and my sister. All of our date ideas, but he included her. We will go see Christmas movies and Christmas lights with my sister. He got me 1 to 3 items off of my list, but none of these items were the things I needed, i.e. warm clothes, shoes, bras, a winter coat, cosmetics. We both made a lot of sacrifices this year while we struggled together, and I was looking forward to getting some items that would help me feel like me again and not like I was just in survival mode. My gift is that my sister is getting a vacation to my apartment. When he explained this to me, I just started crying. I feel so insanely frustrated. I love my sister, and we are very close, but it's because I am more like a parent to her. When I moved away and met my BF I had some independence from this, but now something I was really looking forward to has been turned into a babysitting experience where I'm in charge of giving my sister a child's Christmas experience. I'm upset that my BF doesn't know me well enough to know that this was actually one of the worst things he could do for me. He knows I hate surprises and grand gestures. I told him this really ruined my Christmas, and it's something that can't be undone without upsetting my sister who I feel responsible for. My BF is telling me I'm being ungrateful and that he tried his best to be thoughtful, but I can't shake the feeling that this was the last thing from thoughtful. Can someone please offer some insight? Stories number 7. Am I the asshole for telling my dad and his wife I won't take responsibility for my disabled stepsister's care in the future? My parents are divorced and I, 17M, mostly live with my mom. 5 years ago my dad got married to Rebecca and her daughter Yasmin moved in with dad. Yasmin's 7 now and she's severely disabled. She can't talk or do stuff for herself. I don't know much about her condition overall. I never spent much time with Rebecca or her. But I learned some stuff over the last few years. I know Rebecca has a fund set aside for Yasmin's future care and my dad has been paying into that, and he's invested more into her future than he ever did into mine, which is a sore point for me, but I know she needs it more and all. Yasmin's dad doesn't do anything for her, so my dad took on the role of making sure she be cared for. But they're worried about what happens when they die. If they died tomorrow the money is there for her care, but Yasmin's father doesn't care what happens to her and there's no family. This came up the other day. Dad had asked me to spend the day with him and I did, and he asked me to come to his place for dinner and I went to the house, but dinner didn't happen because they asked me to look over Yasmin and be a big brother to her when they're gone. To make sure she's taken care of in the home and take care of her myself if I need to. They said she's my sister now and we might not be blood, but she's my family and she needs me. I said no. I told them I'm not taking responsibility for her. Dad told me I need to, for him, and that he doesn't ask for a lot. I admit I told him he never gives me a lot. He said that's not fair and I shouldn't punish Yasmin for it. He told me I need to step up and be a bigger man than I'm acting. Rebecca asked me how I could be around her sweet girl and not want to protect her. I told her I've hardly been around Yasmin and I don't feel a family bond or loyalty toward her, and I said they won't bully me into it. I left because they only got angrier. Dad called my mom's phone looking for me a couple of times since, and Mom had to tell him to never speak to me the way he was trying to because I didn't owe him the peace of mind of caring for his step-kid when he dies. She really stood up for me. But Dad, and Rebecca, are saying I'm a heartless monster for saying no. Stories number 8. Am I the asshole here for breaking up with my girlfriend after she said my vulnerability made her feel unsafe? I'm 28 and had been dating my girlfriend, 26, for about a year and change. I really thought we were on the same page. We had a great connection and just genuinely enjoyed each other's company. I'd been noticing something just a little off in the relationship the past month, though. Dunno what else to call it. Just something was weird. There's been a lot of shit in my life recently, stressful stuff at work, I teach, plus some family drama that's been weighing on me. I'm usually the type to keep my problems to myself, but I've been trying hard to open up because I don't want to live that way anymore. A week, I told her how overwhelmed I've been and how I was having a tough time seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Her response sucked ass in my eyes. She said something like, I don't want to sound harsh, but when you talk like this, I kind of feel unsafe. I need you to be strong. I can't deal with both your problems and mine. I tried to reassure her that just because I'm having a hard time doesn't mean I'm weak or incapable. I told her being honest about my struggles was part of trusting her and that it took a lot for me to open up. She doubled down. She basically said, everyone has rough patches, but honestly, you just have to deal with it. I didn't argue with her right then. I was too stunned. But the more I thought about it, the more it sucked. I realized I don't want to be in a relationship where I have to keep everything bottled up so I can fit into her idea of a strong man. That's not who I am, and it's not who I want to be. So last night, I ended things. She was really upset and said I was throwing away a good relationship over a misunderstanding. She claimed I was punishing her for being honest, and now some of my friends think I might have overreacted. I really don't think I did. Stories number 9. Am I the asshole for not going above and beyond to make sure my kids see their half-sister and not even making sure they get to see her at Christmas? I, 30M, have 2 kids, 11F and 9M, with my ex Charlotte, 30F, and I have full physical and legal custody of them. We had our kids young and so we did struggle, but Charlotte struggled worse and she regretted having the kids within a month of our son's birth, and arguably she regretted having our daughter at the time too. But she spoke up when our son was born and she asked for time to find herself. But when she was free from parental responsibilities she didn't want to come back. I got primary custody of our kids from the jump. She had a generous visitation schedule for a parent who admitted she didn't really want the kids. But the judge at the time was unwilling to give the mom just every other weekend, and so she got 3 weeks a month and 4 dinners during the week, Wednesday. She never took Wednesdays, and for a while she took 1 weekend a month, but sometimes she'd go months without seeing them. The judge wouldn't change the time he gave her because she was mom, even with over a year of failing to take all her parenting time. Charlotte's family wanted to see the kids and we got along okay-ish, so I always let them see the kids. Things changed with Charlotte when she met her husband, Rob. He wanted the kids. He wanted to be my kids' dad. They tried to get more custody after the wedding. They literally filed on their wedding day thinking the marriage made a big difference. Rob would tell me the kids called him dad now and my kids would say they didn't. He'd tell me I was getting between him and the kids, would accuse me of telling the kids not to call him dad. They jerked away from him whenever he went to reach for them. I asked if he ever hurt them and they said no, just that he was always trying to make them stand next to him or walk with him and they didn't like it. I documented each incident and spoke to my lawyer. I also recorded an incident where he was scolding the kids for calling him by his name in front of me and for trying to come over and hug me, saying it was their time with the kids and they didn't need to be near me. This was at an extracurricular function. When the custody evaluation happened, I presented all the evidence, a GAL was provided, and by the time I was given full physical and legal custody, Rob was done with my kids because they wouldn't be his. A switch flipped from their mind and fuck off to take them and get them out of my sight. Charlotte seemed relieved to have the kids be back with me all the time. Following the end of the custody eval, I heard Charlotte was pregnant, and 10 months after the court date Charlotte and Rob had a daughter. My kids saw her 3 times. She's 4 now. Charlotte doesn't have any contact with our kids now. However, her family still sees them. Charlotte's parents and siblings have complained that I don't facilitate a relationship with my kids and their half-sister. They told me I should be going above and beyond to make sure they grow up loving each other, and that my kids have told them they don't care about their half-sister. I asked why it came up and they said they asked because my kids never talk about her, and they said it was my fault. Charlotte's parents have decided from now on they'll host Christmas for their entire family and they want me to send my kids to them on Christmas Day so they can be with their half-sister. I said no. They said this is how they see her at Christmas at least and form a relationship. I told them I will not send the kids away from their one active parent at Christmas to be ignored by the other and have a 4-year-old pushed onto them by the extended family. Charlotte's parents didn't like this and accused me of being a petty dad who only cares about his bloodline and not valuing the relationship between half-siblings when the half isn't my half. They told me I should do what's best for the kids and not me. Stories number 10. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she's a shitty mother in the family group chat? My sister, Sarah, 35, and I, 30F, see each other around Christmas every year. Other than that we don't really communicate except for the occasional family group chat exchange. She has 2 sons, Jackson, 15, and Ethan, 13. I've always known that Ethan is quiet and reserved, and until recently I thought he preferred to not have a lot of attention, until I realized he's just not getting any. Until last Christmas, I thought Jackson and Ethan had the same dad. I learned Jackson's dad left Sarah after she cheated on him, hence, Ethan. I recently realized that Sarah would reach out in the chat on behalf of Jackson. If he had a sports game, doing a fundraiser, had a social event to attend, she would ask us to attend, donate, or help him get to from his social event if she couldn't take him. Or if he was suspended from school, she would reach out to us for help, but rarely would we hear anything about Ethan, and she never told us that Jackson was suspended 99% of the time for bullying Ethan and his friends. They now go to separate schools. Recently Sarah asked if someone could take Ethan to his school choir concert so she could attend parent conferences at Jackson's school. Odd to me because she didn't ask anyone to go watch him perform, but I gave her the benefit of the doubt and thought maybe Ethan didn't want anyone to watch. I offered to take him, watch the concert if he wanted me to, and take him home. He had a solo, he was smiling and clearly loved what he was doing. His choir director said Ethan is always helping other students and asked me to come to more concerts. Some time after, Sarah was once again busy at driver's ed with Jackson and Ethan was home. He started vomiting and called his mom. She reached out and asked if anyone else could go take care of him until she got home, so I did. But she didn't come home early. 2 weeks later, 2 weeks ago from now, he broke his hand. Last weekend I bought tickets to the symphony and planned to take him, but wound up not being able to because I was sick. I transferred the tickets to his mom and begged her to take him and she said she would. I texted Ethan yesterday and asked how he liked it but he didn't respond. So I called his mom. She didn't take him and didn't find anyone else to. She was busy and forgot, but wasn't too busy to ask the family group chat the day of the concert if anyone would help pay for Jackson's DC trip in the spring. I went off on her in the family group chat and said she is being a shitty mother. I said I don't know if it's because she inherited the favoritism gene from our parents or if she is subconsciously punishing him because he cheated and got rightfully dumped, and I told her that she needs to step up for her son. Of course this has caused a group chat storm. At first I felt justified, but some of the responses say otherwise, and Sarah of course says I'm the biggest Am I the asshole for calling her out in front of the rest of the family? Stories number 11. Am I the asshole for not attending Christmas dinner with my family because it's at 1 o'clock in the afternoon? Not the a-hole. For context, I buy the turkey at 130 pounds, dry brine it for 2 days, cook it, take it to my mom's house and then cook all of the trimmings while I'm there. This involves many hours of work for me as you can imagine, and I have to wake up at 7 a.m. to get all of the timings right. The problem with this is that my partner and I barely get any time together on Christmas Day. We'd like to wake up, have a coffee, spend time together, open presents, maybe have a light breakfast and then get to cooking dinner at midday. We don't usually eat breakfast or lunch as we intermittent fast and we're never hungry for a giant plate of roasted food at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, effectively ruining the Christmas meal for us anyway. When children were involved and everyone had to get home early, I compromised, even though I still didn't really understand the whole eating at midday thing. But this year now the youngest child in attendance is 12. I tried to meet them in the middle and say could we maybe have it at 3? I've been told that I'm selfish and that I don't compromise and that this is ridiculous. Thus I've decided that my partner and I will go round to see the family in the afternoon but not eat dinner with them. We'll have our own meal at home in the evening, saving me money and allowing us to have the Christmas morning we've not had since we first lived together in 2018. Additionally, I'll be able to experiment with flavor for once, sous vide a turkey crown, use the giblets for the gravy etc. I also feel it necessary to add that everyone rushes off as soon as they've finished eating anyway. There would usually be 8 people in attendance including us, and except my mum and brother everyone else leaves. I think it wouldn't be so bad if we spent the day together after the meal. Stories number 12. Hairstylist has been keeping my hair. I'm weirded out. I'm also going to be vague because, obvious reasons. I'm 30 SF. And my stylist is 40s. I got my hair cut today at a stylist I've been using for about 9 months now. I think this is my 6th appointment with them. I usually do a trim or cut style. Today I went from long hair, high lower back, to an A-line bob. Again, since I started seeing this person, I usually get current style maintenance trim. This time was a dramatic length adjustment, so they took a picture of the cut length in the floor to add to their social media, then intending to add before after hours too. That's all totally fine and normal. They go grab a broom, sweep up the hair, and place the dustpan on the counter for a bit. Again. Normal. They grab the broom and pan and head to the back of the shop. They're gone a few minutes. No biggie, then they go out to smoke. But, here's where it gets weird. The bathroom is in the back of the shop too. I need to go and step into the back. I don't really notice anything on the way into the bathroom. I go, and start to head back out. But I notice my name on a small clear tote on the table. It has no lid. And it has my hair in it. At first, I didn't really think much of it. But I looked closer and see it's not just today's discarded hair, but looks like at least a few of my trim sessions. Mixed with, it looked like potpourri. And a little sand or something. And printed pictures of the cut hair with dates. The printer is sitting right next to it with today's discarded hair pick in the tray. There didn't seem to be any other containers like this when I looked around. It was fucking weird, so I took a pic on my phone. I honestly didn't know what to think or do and went back out into the salon. They came back in, and I mentioned that I went to the restroom and they seemed to freak out a little but didn't mention it. I didn't really know what to say, so I just let them finish styling my hair, paid and left. As a socially anxious introvert, this was my nightmare. I got home and the more I looked at this picture, the more ick I got. I ended up texting them an hour ago, sending the picture, and requesting they remove the weird box of me and asking for an explanation. I said, "Hey. So I saw this and didn't know what to make of it. Can you help me understand what this is and why you have it? I'm not comfortable with you having this and request you please discard the contents. Also, even though I love my cut, I believe it's best if I find a different stylist." They haven't responded. LOL, WTF. Update. It's been about a week, and with the holiday I've all over the place, but I ended up going to law enforcement to make a report last Monday. I'll likely end up going back if this person keeps contacting me like they have been. I'll give a little timeline. Last Saturday, haircut and discovered the weird tub full of my hair, texted stylist about the weird tub and said I'd be finding a new stylist, hairstylist didn't respond. This is where I left off in the last post. A lot has happened since then. Sunday I woke up to a bunch of texts from the stylist. It woke me up because, even though I have DND on my phone, I have a setting that overrides that if there are repeated contact attempts over 3. In case of emergencies. Here's what I got. 3:49 a.m. I recommend going to a different stylist BC of this. It's not a big deal, small towns and people talk and you may not find anyone that will take you after this, so ID reconsider. I don't like threats. 3:51 a.m. So I have your biological material and it's mine property now, I can do what I want with it. I kept it because I can and it means a lot to me. 3:54 a.m. Why you send the pic? I know what it looks like, it's mine. 4 a.m. You need to respond to me because I think it's a misunderstanding about what this is. It's no big deal and you saying you are switching stylists has me triggered. I do good work, you said so. 4:04 a.m. I also charge a $350 client separation fee, so yeah, you can't just say you're switching stylists with more consciences, and I know you said you already tried a few PPL before me, they not many beauty PPL in the area. 4:11 a.m. Asking for an explanation for a stylist having hair in a salon is crazy. Where else would you find hair at? I didn't do nothing wrong, but I will get rid of it if you are gonna cry about it, but only if you say you won't be switching to anyone else for your hair care. You mean a lot as a client and always tip well and Indo good work, so it doesn't make sense, and you know that, so maybe don't threaten someone who does your hair or hurt there by making accusatory statements. I didn't respond to any of those that morning because it was so insane to me. I need to process things fully before I make a decision on how to deal with it, so I just didn't respond. Sunday afternoon I start getting phone calls. This person called me 14 times that afternoon. About every other call, they left a voicemail. Most of the voicemails just said, "Call me back" or "Text me back," but 2 of them were unhinged. I'm going to paraphrase, but the gist of the first one was, "Sounds like they're crying, call me back, I'm getting scared you won't come back to me for your hair for real. I just like how your hair feels. That's why I kept it. Call me." The second unhinged message was left late Sunday night at 11:38 p.m. and it said, "I got rid of it except for one lock. I found out I like watching your hair burn more than I liked keeping it." I didn't respond to any of those messages, calls, or texts. The whole thing had me freaked out now. I'd decided by that time I was taking Monday off work to go to the police. Even if they couldn't do anything, I wanted a filed report of the weirdness. I woke up Monday to an email from the stylist with an invoice of $375 for client breach of contract fee as the chargeable line item, again copy and pasting here. The email body was just for being a bitch. It was sent from their business email too, so they're really doing everything they can to ruin themselves. Even if I had a contract with this nutter, which I don't, the original amount was for $350. They can't even get their extortion fees right. I did email them back stating that we had no contract, and to cease all further communication with me from this point forward. I got ready and started heading to the police station around 9:45 Monday morning. I live in a rural area, so there are portions of my drive to and from our main town that doesn't have cell reception. When I finally got to town, I had 4 voicemails. I knew immediately who they were from. I talked to one of the officers on staff. They took my statement, a copy of the email, asked me to forward all the texts and screenshots of the numbers of calls. They said, at the least, the calls and texts could be considered menacing and harassment. But the voicemail where they mentioned how they like burning my hair was potentially concerning. The officer advised I contact a legal representative in case this person tries to take the bogus invoice to a civil suit court. And they said I'm welcome to change my number, but having the piling evidence if they continue to contact me after I explicitly told them not to in the email would only help me. I reached out to a lawyer Tuesday and left a detailed message regarding the situation. They are apparently out of the office until next Wednesday for the holiday, so we'll see if they have any advice. I've since received many texts and calls from the stylist. They sent a "Happy Thanksgiving" text on Thursday morning as well. Regardless, they are giving me a lot of evidentiary material to work with, but I'm so unsettled. I can't wait to hear from the lawyer this week. Editor's note: this mini update was posted after the BORU went up. I added it in the first BORU per the sub-rules. Mini update. Mini update. I woke up to new comments and requests for updates. Firstly, I am okay and safe for now. The person has continued to contact me on a regular basis via phone and email. I do have personal protection that I'm comfortable with and can wield with accuracy. But I'm nearly certain this person does not know where I live, so I don't anticipate any type of confrontation here. Our house and property has complete camera coverage as well. If anyone shows up, we're well aware. I will be posting a more in-depth update, with more texts and emails up to this point, and regarding a specific incident that happened on Friday, on Tuesday. I have an appointment to speak with another officer then to discuss the potential of criminal action and legal consequences for the stylist as a result. Thank you all for your concern and the validation that this is absolutely insane. I'll leave you with a text from this past week, one I think you'll all enjoy. Question. Use for a model of how not to make friends. 5:12 a.m. 12/4/24. Don't never say never. You are never coming back, don't make me laugh. I don't want your ass back, you can beg me though. Might help. Update 2. I didn't expect the crazy amount of people following this. Here is the long-awaited post. Also, long post. Sorry for the delay, I think I mentioned before, I'm a processor, so it takes me a while to work through my thoughts and feelings on things. This situation and update may not be as satisfying as many would have hoped, but here it goes. I met with law enforcement again this past Tuesday. My husband and I drove over early that morning because I was also meeting up with the lawyer I'm working with. Aside from the near constant texts, calls, and emails, I wanted to pursue legal action for a specific issue. Allegedly, the stylist had tried to have my credit card cancelled. Apparently they used the last 4 digits of my card, called the customer service line for the card, and tried to cancel it. I got a call from the fraud department shortly after this person attempted to do this, trying to verify everything, to see if I actually wanted to close my account and dissolve my credit line with them. To be clear, the stylist was not successful in their alleged attempt. They couldn't provide the basic information you need for such things like my actual last name, it's unusual, and they gave a name that was almost similar, date of birth, address, etc. Apparently they thought they could accomplish this with just my name, phone number, and the last 4 digits of the card number. I didn't cancel the card but did request a new one, for obvious reasons. I had no clue why they would want to cancel my card. To inconvenience me? Yep, that's exactly why. Allegedly. When I spoke with CC Company, they agreed to send over the recording of the person that called, as well as the phone number the call originated from, as long as the request came from law enforcement with a warrant. They gave me a phone number and reference number for the police to reach out to directly. The officer began working on that immediately. So that is in progress. I went to my phone company over the weekend. I had my phone number transferred to an old phone so I could still receive calls and texts there, but got a new phone number for my actual phone. The old phone and phone number has been turned over to the officer assigned to my case. They did go and speak with this person yesterday. Apparently they are horrified I went to the police and had no idea any of their crazy could be chargeable offenses. According to the officer, there have been no further communications via text or call since their visit, and I haven't received any other emails. A temporary protection and no contact order has been issued against them until the first court date. I have also reached out to the State Board of Licensing with all this information and my complaints. All I can say is they are investigating. Outside of that information, I'm limited on any other information I can share since a legal process against this person has officially begun. We're just waiting to see how this all plays out now. It's been a long few weeks. I'm hoping for the best here. I'm already so relieved to no longer be getting calls, texts, or emails constantly. Thank you for all the concern, advice, and good wishes. This was meant to be an outlet for me to vent and process, and I'm so grateful that you have allowed me to do that, with the huge amount of support you have given. Stories number 13. Am I the asshole for not being a chatty Cathy with my hospital roommate? I, 30F, had surgery earlier today. I gave birth to a baby 6 months ago. There was a complication which could not have been able to be operated on at the time. So I was the first surgery for the day. The nurses kept mentioning it. After recovering I was brought to my observation ward. About an hour or so later I had a roommate, 40-ish F, joined. I had been watching TV shows on my iPad with the volume on loud. As soon as she arrived, I put my AirPods in as a courtesy to her. Later in the afternoon my husband brought our baby to come and see me. As soon as they left, roommate started up a conversation. I was polite and entertained the conversation for about 30 minutes. I apologized to cut the conversation short, but I was going to have a nap. Well, she got all huffy and rude, saying I was selfish. When I woke up from the nap, roommate was no longer there. I called for pain meds and the nurse said I must have really said something to her, as while I was asleep, she demanded to be moved to a different room, and that I should be kinder with my words. I feel that I'm not the asshole for wanting to sleep to recover. It could be the meds I'm on, but I feel horrible. Stories number 14. Am I the asshole here for kicking my fiancé out after, joking, he got me pregnant on purpose? I, 23F, made a post a couple days ago on here talking about a joke my fiancé made at Thanksgiving which concerned me. That post got taken down, locked. This is a repost update. I, 23F, have been with my fiancé, 26M, for 3 years. We met whilst I was on holiday and a few weeks after, he followed me on Instagram and the rest is history. We got engaged last year and a month later found out I was pregnant. We have a beautiful 6-month-old. We hosted Thanksgiving this year and my fiancé was drinking quite heavily, and after dinner me and my mom were talking about the wedding, which my parents are paying for. I overheard my fiancé tell my brother, who was just as drunk as him, that he needed to tie me down and get me pregnant before I realized what a dickhead he was. They laughed it off, but it rubbed me the wrong way because our baby was not planned. I wasn't ready for a child and we were using condoms, but after a few instances where the condom broke I decided it would be safer if I got on birth control. The first month on, because I got pregnant, we were told that could happen and he said he would pull out to be safe, but I still got pregnant. I was scared as fuck, but I personally didn't want to get an abortion. I 100% believe in the right to get an abortion, I just didn't want one, and so decided to keep the baby. I work for my dad's company and my fiancé works at a country club. Money wasn't necessarily why I didn't want a baby, I just wanted to do more before I started a family. I spoke to my fiancé about what he said and at first he said he didn't remember saying it, which was believable because of how drunk he was, but then he said it was just a joke and it was meant as a compliment because I'm so amazing. So I said okay, good, because we're getting a prenup. I was just joking, but I was also wanted to see how he reacted and he was pissed. He said why the fuck would he sign a prenup, that we have a baby together, a house together, and that he would not sign one, how we wouldn't need one because we're never separating, and that me mentioning a prenup is insulting and emasculating. I never felt threatened or anything like that, but he did make me uncomfortable and he woke our baby up, so I told him to leave, which he did. The day after I kicked him out he sent me a long apologetic message about how it was out of character of him to get loud, which it was. He's never acted like that before, and I replied saying I appreciate the apology but I still just need a day or two to think everything through. The next day he sent a bouquet to the apartment. Sunday he sent me a booking confirmation of a massage he booked for me at the club and offered to come over to watch our son and cook dinner. Tonight he sent me a message saying that I'm being an a-hole and that I'm taking a meaningless joke to heart and that he's wasting money he could be saving for the wedding on the hotel. But now things that went over my head before, I'm starting to think is sus, but breaking up my family over this doesn't seem right. Am I overthinking this, being an a-hole? Update. A lot of people were asking for context. When I said I wanted a prenup at the time I wasn't being serious, maybe I was being a not trying to get a reaction, but based on the 3 years we've been together I would have never imagined he'd react the way he did. Why did the joke bother me so much? About a year ago he lost his job. He was never really clear why. For the next 3-4 months he didn't really do much. He said he was trying to figure out what he wanted to do next, and that was the first time he brought up having kids, indicating that he was ready. We had a candid conversation on my part about how I want kids, just not anytime soon. I enjoy my job, I had trips planned and I wanted to be married first. He agreed with me that we should wait 3-4 years. My dad's company got a contract at the club, which is how he got his job there. but during the time he was out of work my girls would joke that he's a stay-at-home boyfriend and that I'm the provider and he'd be a stay-at-home dad because I was paying the bills rent by myself, which at the time didn't bother me. I used to live there by myself before we got together, so it wasn't a big deal, but I guess it was them that first made me question. To be honest, I don't know how long the condoms were breaking. A lot of people are saying they've never had them break, and I can't say I remember it ever happening before. I noticed the first time that it looked like it had split, and then I checked it the next time that was also broken, which is when I decided to get an intrauterine device. Which he didn't want me to, but I stood my ground and we compromised and I got on the pill. I know we should have continued using condoms, but he said he'd ran out and that I'm on the pill and don't need them. In hindsight, yes, I should have insisted we still use them, but I choose not to have that battle. I thought we'd be okay. He knew my opinion on abortion and that I wouldn't get one. If I got pregnant I would raise the baby unless it was for a medical reason. Money-wise my family's successful. I work for my dad's company. I have 2 trust funds, one of which I got at 18. Before I fell pregnant I was making plans to start my own house flipping business, but I decided to put that on hold. I still work from home on flexible hours, but he said once we're married he wants me to stop working so I can focus on our kids and that he'll support us, but I've never really liked that idea, mainly because although I've never had to worry about money, my parents always taught us the importance of financial stability and my mom's always said to never be financially dependent on anyone. Plus my fiancé's current salary I'm not sure would cover all of our expenses. The only reason why I haven't told my dad is because they have a good relationship and I don't want to blow everything up over an overreaction on my part. I23F made a post last week about a joke my fiancé, 26M, made at Thanksgiving while drunk. To everyone that hasn't seen my older post, he joked that he got me pregnant to tie me down and I didn't know what to make of it, so I posted on here to get outside opinions. I didn't want to initially talk to my friends or family about it because they're all quite close to him and I didn't want to make a mountain out of a molehill and cause drifts in their relationships. Yesterday we had a conversation about where I was at, but he said he couldn't go back to the hotel because they kicked him out for smoking in the room. He stopped smoking while I was pregnant, but he said I was stressing him out, so he had to stay at the apartment. While I was OTP to one of my girls in the bedroom he came in and took the phone off me and told me to come and eat. While we was eating he said that he understood what I said and that things need to change for us to move forward. He then proceeded to list all the things I needed to do to make things better. His tone the whole conversation was just making me uneasy. I texted my dad saying that he was making me uncomfortable when he wasn't looking. I went to check on the baby and when I came back I saw him take my keys out my purse but didn't say anything. He took my silence as agreement to everything he said and went to bed, instead of the couch like we had agreed. Like everything was normal I stayed in the living room and my dad, bless him, drove 6 hours to come and get us. My dad got to the apartment around 5 this morning while my fiancé was still sleeping and we left. Me and my son are at my parents' house now. My fiancé's been blowing up my phone since this morning. I sent a text to him as we were driving off saying he wasn't respecting the fact that I needed space and time to just figure everything out, so he could stay in the apartment and I'll stay at my parents'. We haven't officially broken up or called the wedding off. My parents who've paid for it have said that they don't care if I want to call it off, but I feel bad. But I just want to say thank you to everyone who replied to my original post and private messaged me. I didn't think people would care about me. I feel like every option I have is bad. The thought of being a single mom is scary. If my fiancé's behavior gets worse that would be shit. If we cancel the wedding and cost my parents thousands of dollars I'll feel guilty, and if we break up altogether we just got a house together, we're both on the mortgage. Our joint accounts and I've been with him since I was 19. Being without him for good is also scary. Stories number 15. Am I the asshole here for confronting my son's girlfriend after she made a rude comment about my daughter's eating habits? Hi folks. So I'm a mom to 3 kids, 20M, 18M, and 15F. My 18Y son has been dating his girlfriend, also 18, for about 7 or 8 months now. He only properly introduced us to her around 2 months ago and since then she's been coming over frequently. My husband and I work, so if she comes home, it's usually just the 2 of them and my 15Y daughter in the house. A few days ago, I came home to find my daughter had locked her door. I called her for dinner but she didn't come down. This was odd behavior for her, so later that night I asked her what was wrong. It took some time for her to admit something happened, but apparently, the girlfriend had been in the kitchen while my daughter was making a snack for herself, and had said something along the lines of big back behaviors. I had no idea what that meant, so I looked it up, and apparently it's a trend where people use big back to imply fat person behaviors. My daughter was really hurt by the comment, especially since she said it wasn't the first time the girlfriend had made remarks like this, and she ended up throwing away the food. She hates crying in front of people, but she was tearing up while speaking to me. I was very pissed off on her behalf. I spoke to my son about it at first and asked him to address this with his girlfriend. He told me it's just a trend and she had meant it jokingly, and he wasn't going to get into a fight with his girlfriend about that. But I didn't think it was a joke. It had clearly hurt my daughter badly and she can usually handle jokes, but I think this really got to her. So I decided to talk to the girlfriend directly. I wasn't rude, but I was speaking sternly and I made it clear that comments like that weren't acceptable in our home. The girlfriend looked a bit taken aback, didn't say anything except sorry, and hasn't been back to our house since. Now my son is mad at me. He told me I shouldn't have confronted her and that I've made things awkward between him and his girlfriend. Now he thinks I should have let him handle it instead. I don't feel guilty about it. I'm still angry on my daughter's behalf. But my son loves that girl and this is the first time she's acting distant with him apparently, so I was wondering if I was the to confront her like that. Edit. Thank you to everybody who commented and gave advice. I'd like to address some things. There are some strange comments about my daughter's body and weight. Respectfully, keep them to yourself, please. My daughter is an active girl. She does ballet and gymnastics and loves outdoor activities in general. If anything, I'm concerned she isn't eating enough. The most important thing to me is that she's healthy. I won't entertain the people asking for numbers or other nonsense. You shouldn't be saying these things to anybody, regardless if they're fat or not. I took my daughter out for ice cream and had a chat with her. There was some great advice on how to handle this and I mostly reassured her that nothing's wrong with her eating habits. I'm always going to be there for her and my son's girlfriend's words are only a reflection of her. She's been back to her usual self and eating normally, so I'm hoping this will be water off a duck's back. My husband and I are going to have a long talk with my son. I don't want him to lose his relationship, but I will tell him explicitly that I'm disappointed in him, that he needs to stand up for his little sister, and that his girlfriend can only mend things if she properly apologizes to my daughter. He and his sister bicker like normal siblings, but I know he cares about her, so I want to drive home the fact that she was hurt. And I'm hoping the girlfriend was not actively being malicious, because if she was, she won't be welcome back in my home again. Thank you all again, and happy holidays. Stories number 16. My GF made out with her girlfriend. My GF, 23F, and I, 23M, have been together for 4 years. I am still studying, but she has a job and is comfortable. But this has caused a slight strain on our relationship. Nothing major, just that it became difficult for us to spend time with each other, which led to fights, which were always sorted immediately. A few months ago, during my end semester exams, my GF decided to go out for some drinks with her new colleagues, all of them girls. She got drunk and started texting me at 3 a.m. while I was studying. I told her to enjoy her night and be safe. She told me her friends have decided to crash at a guy's place, a guy she doesn't even know about. I was pretty chill about it since I know I wouldn't have to worry about her cheating on me. At 4:15 a.m., when I am just about to take a nap before waking up to study again, my GF blows up my phone. I panicked and asked her what happened. She told me she's panicking because she made out with her friend. I first confirmed if it was just her friend and not the guy. She promised it wasn't the guy and I believe her. Now, my GF and I haven't been too keen on making new friends as we're very content with the people in our lives, but when the time calls for it, we do socialize. My GF has known her new colleagues for less than a month, and it's unlike her to go drinking to clubs and crashing out at other guys' house. So when she told me that she made out with her friend, I got a little pissed, but I told her I needed some space since my exam was in a day. But she got really defensive and stated that she has been through a lot in the past year because of the minuscule issues we used to have in our relationship and that she needed to have a little adventure. Now here's the thing, I personally don't have a problem with her drunk making out with a girl because it's not that big of a deal. My issue is that she was reckless and irresponsible in doing the things prior to the kiss, and then she got defensive when I called her out for it. She's planning on moving abroad in a few months for further studies. So after my exams, I broke up with her since I realized that if I have to maintain long distance, I'm going to have to trust my soul 100%, which I don't think I can, because if this is what she does when things are a bit tense between us while we're in the same city, I really don't want to find out what she'll do in another country with a similar situation. Should I have done something different? TLDR, my GF made out with her girlfriend. I decided to break up since she's moving abroad soon and I can't trust her. Edit, thank you guys for the response. Those calling me homophobic, I just want to clarify that I do not perceive straight women to be a threat because there is a lack of romantic intent. The answer would have been a whole not her conversation had that person been bi. I do not condone what my ex had done, because she decided to do whatever, for the sake of excitement, without confirming the preference of sex of the other person. Stories number 17. My dad isn't coming to Christmas. My dad, 65, is, unfortunately, one of the many victims of the MAGA Fox News far-right brain rot. Sprinkle in a bit of the ultra-conservative religious YouTubers and you have my dad. My husband and I bought our first home in October and are hosting Christmas for the first time. I've invited my immediate family, husband's immediate family, and my best friend. My best friend is a member of the LGBTQ+ community and is also NB. My dad found out about this, on top of them not bowing to his every word, and declared that he won't be coming to Christmas because he refuses to be around anyone that isn't following the path of Christ. Apparently he's conveniently forgotten that Jesus walked with sinners and that my husband is agnostic. He refuses to have these conversations with me directly and puts my mom in the middle, which hurts me more than anything. Standing my ground is new for me, thanks to many years of therapy. Does it ever get easier? Stories number 18. My girlfriend, F21, rejected my M21 proposal because it didn't meet her expectations. For context, my girlfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and over Thanksgiving weekend I took her on a week-long trip to Hawaii with the intention of proposing to her. I even asked her parents for their blessing and showed them the ring a couple days before we left for the trip. We have talked about marriage before and we've both agreed that we want to marry each other, so the idea of it is nothing new and actually a frequent topic. The issue is that she wanted a grand wedding proposal similar to the ones you might see on TikTok, Instagram: big, marry me, letters on the beach, rose petals on the ground, lights, mariachi, etc. I was absolutely on board on doing that for her if it made her happy, but that was something to be planned at a beach back at home since I wouldn't have the resources to plan it for a trip to somewhere we've never been, especially because we booked everything as a last-minute vacation just 5 days prior. Ironically, after she sent me videos of people vacationing in Hawaii. I believe this would be a great opportunity though. I planned to propose to her on the day we arrived. I carried the ring in my pocket all day waiting for a good opportunity to ask her, knowing it wasn't going to be a grand proposal like she had hoped. But I thought because of the circumstances she would be happy. However, we had some completely unnecessary arguments and I decided to postpone because I didn't want to do it after a bitter day. Second day there, we had booked a reservation to go parasailing. I didn't want to risk losing the ring, so I left it back at the hotel. We didn't get back to the hotel until 5 p.m. and we started getting ready to go back out in the city. By this time it was already starting to get dark. She said before that she would want a sunset proposal, and knowing that I couldn't organize any of the other things she had in mind for a proposal, the sunset was the only thing I had. I missed my chance on that, but we still went out to dinner and drinks. We came back to the hotel afterwards because she was tired, I was too. It was an eventful day. I let her rest for a bit and around 10:30 I convinced her to go on a night walk with me at the beach. This was when I planned to propose to her. We got to the beach, the city was very much still awake and the lights of the buildings and streets combined with the bright moon illuminated the ocean beautifully. We stood there hugging and kissing, both knowing it was a beautiful and intimate moment. I started telling her how much I love her and how I want to be with her my entire life, etc. As I started to get on my knee and reaching my pocket for the ring, she stopped me. I hope you're not about to propose to me right now, this isn't what I expected. My heart dropped, I got back up and stood speechless before starting to walk back to the hotel. I was in no mood to talk about the situation and told her we should talk about it tomorrow. We talked about it the next day and she insists on me doing it again, but this time, the right way, during sunset. I tell her I can't do that because she rejected me already. She tells me she didn't reject it, just simply it wasn't how she would have wanted it to happen. We spent the next 4 days in Hawaii in a very tense state, but we had to deal with it until we got back home. We lived together and for the first night she went to sleep with her parents. Now she came back, but I don't want to be home with her there. What can be the outcome of the situation? I obviously didn't want this to happen during our vacation, but I can't see it other way. Is this a valid reason for me not wanting to be with her anymore? I also don't think it's right for me to redo the proposal. TLDR, girlfriend turned down my proposal during our vacation to Hawaii because it didn't fit her idea of a grand proposal, yet insists on me redoing it how she wants it. Update, so we had another conversation about it once she came back home from her parents. She's still adamant that I failed to meet her expectations. Admittedly, I understand I didn't do any of the things she had visualized it to be. I want to emphasize that we're young, and the proposals she's seen on social media are nothing but trends. These proposals have become popular in maybe the last year or two. Prior to that she's told that she wants an intimate proposal and especially away from the public. People are telling me I'm wrong because I knew exactly what she wanted and didn't do it. She also tells me that a proposal is solely about the female and what she wants. I think that's bullshit. I know I've told her that I was on board on doing her fantasy proposal, yet I changed my mind about that. I didn't want to plan this huge thing at my hometown beach just for the spectacle of it. I preferred to do it in a way I knew we'd both enjoy. In Hawaii especially. Something that really bugs me is she says that I made the trip seem like just another trip, nothing crazy or out of the ordinary. This is literally our first ever vacation flight together. The same night that happened, we had brunch, went parasailing, and had a wonderful teppanyaki dinner. Am I selfish for changing the whole proposal up without consulting her? I don't understand why some people say I'm selfish for not doing what she wanted. I still did something that objectively should make any woman ecstatic. I think my focus now is shifting from wondering if it's okay for me to break up with her for turning me down, to wanting to break up for her ungratefulness in general. Another reason why she said it wasn't up to her expectations was because we were both dressed casually. She wanted me to give her prior notice that something special was going to happen by telling her to get glammed up. Note, to the people asking why I couldn't propose the next day at sunset, another requirement for her proposal was for her dog to be there, which she told me that same minute after telling me it's not what she expected. She absolutely adores this dog and has always told me she wants him to be ringbearer at our wedding. Sure thing, if it makes her happy I really don't mind. Issue is she also wanted that to be the case for the proposal, which I was absolutely unaware of, and obviously we didn't take the dog with us. She was just too focused on how she wanted the proposal rather than just being excited about being with me. Update 2. We had the breakup talk. My girlfriend has always been a bit self-centered. I've known that and have been able to put up with it. About 4 months ago she started having therapy sessions. I don't know how long they last, what days they are, or what they talk about. I do know that she has become an entirely different person. She's been more compassionate and cooperative with me, the things I've always wished for her to be more. This caused me to be fully ready to commit to a life with her, hoping this new mentality is permanent. Anyway, she talked to her therapist and told me that she asked her one question: do you like surprises? She tells her of course she does. She explains to her that as her boyfriend, I most likely know that, and was trying to do something heartfelt and unscripted. No mariachi, glamorous dress or big letters, just us two. She further tells her that if she truly felt in her heart that she wants to live a life with me, all of the other superficial stuff shouldn't matter. She's apologizing to me, telling me she really regrets doing that and assuring me she would have said yes anyway. My biggest regret is I'll never really know what she would have said, though in my gut I'm not 100% sure she would have said yes. Her first thoughts when that was happening was completely dismissive of me and disrespectful, something that for once I feel like I can't take anymore. I'm standing my ground, telling her I've swallowed my pride way too many times in the past, and we should go through with it. I'll be sleeping on the couch, she'll be packing her things tomorrow and going to live with her parents. Stories number 19. Am I the asshole for refusing to take in my estranged father after what he did to my mom and us growing up? I, 29F, grew up in a household where my mom was both mom and dad. My father left us when I was 10 after cheating on my mom multiple times and eventually moving in with another woman. He never paid child support or helped financially, leaving my mom to work 2 jobs to make ends meet. We struggled a lot, sometimes we didn't even know if we'd have food on the table. For years, my father made no effort to be part of my or my siblings' lives. He didn't call, visit, or even send a card for birthdays or holidays. It was like we didn't exist to him. As I got older, I built a life without him and stopped expecting anything. Recently, I got a call from my older brother, 33M, who told me that our dad is now broke, sick, and living in poor conditions after his second wife left him. He's asking one of us to take him in and care for him. My brother declined because he has a family of his own and can't take on that responsibility. He suggested I might help since I don't have kids yet. When I said no, my dad called me directly for the first time in years. He said I was being ungrateful and heartless, claiming he's still my father and deserves compassion. He also tried to guilt me by saying he regrets his mistakes and just wants a chance to reconnect. I told him he made his choices years ago and can't expect me to step in now. He called me selfish and accused me of holding on to the past. Some family members agree with him, saying it's my duty to help him because blood is blood. But I can't bring myself to forgive someone who left us to suffer when we needed him the most. Am I the asshole for refusing to take in my estranged father? Stories number 20. SIL inviting herself to bachelorette. Apologies in advance for the paragraphs, just looking for a gut check here to see if I'm being a bridezilla, and get perspective on how best to navigate this situation. I, 31F, am marrying James, 36M, next year. His brother Matt, 34M, has been married to Paula, 34F, since before I met James. Paula is very nice and we get along well when I see her, which is once a year for the holidays, as we live across the country from James's brother, SIL, and parents. But we aren't close for the rest of the year. We have very different interests and lives, and just don't really keep in touch. We FaceTime James's family every Sunday when Matt, Paula and my future Phil Mil all get together for dinner, and Paula will usually say hi and then go back to whatever she's doing. Paula and I exchange happy birthday texts on our birthdays and occasionally she'll heart react a photo in the family group text. That's about the extent of our relationship. This is all completely okay with me. I don't feel the need to force a closeness that isn't there, and as I said, we all get along great when we go home for the holidays. I'm in the middle of planning my bachelorette trip. We're not doing a bridal party or groomsmen, and I invited 6 close friends and family members who I have known between 8 years and my entire life. I mentioned something about the trip on the last FaceTime with James's family and everyone was like, that sounds like it'll be fun. And we moved on and I thought nothing of it. But the next morning, James was chatting with Matt, who said in a very offhand way, "Oh, Paula wanted to know if Coffee Now please could send her the details for the bachelorette so she can get her flights and stuff." James was very taken off guard and was like, I'll talk to her, and Matt was like, great thanks, and then changed the subject. I am so baffled by this. Paula has never once given me an indication that she believes we are, or wants us to be, any closer than we are. We hang out once a year during the holidays. I can't remember the last time she asked me a question about myself. She didn't even text me when my dog died. And again, all of this is completely fine with me. I don't need my fiancé's brother's wife who lives a time zone away to be my BFF. But it truly never occurred to me that she would even want to be invited. If Paula were the one getting married, I would never in a million years expect to be invited to her bachelorette, let alone assume I was invited. This all happened on Sunday Monday and I still just don't know how to respond to this, especially because Paula didn't reach out to me directly. Here's the part where I'm worried, I'm being an asshole. The path of least resistance would of course be to invite Paula but I just don't want to. The friends' family who are coming to my bachelorette all have met each other already and mesh well and are extremely important to me. I am the only person in this group who Paula has met, and we have such a surface-level relationship that I feel we barely know each other. The trip is going to involve a lot of hiking and outdoorsy stuff in a location that's very special and nostalgic to me. Paula prefers to stay indoors and has skipped the family's annual Christmas walk every year that I've known her. I don't think she would have a lot of fun, and I also don't want to be worried about her experience the whole time. And beyond all of that, there is a part of me that really resists capitulating to the expectations of someone who has not even told me directly that she would like to come. I would never ever dream of inviting myself to someone's bachelorette, let alone doing so via a game of telephone. We're heading to James's family for the holidays next week and I am so anxious and truly don't know how to handle this. I really don't want to hurt Paula's feelings, but I want to be surrounded by my closest friends and family at my bachelorette, and we just don't have that kind of relationship. Do I just leave it alone and wait for Paula to bring it up? Do I proactively sit her down to talk through it? Do I just get over myself and invite her? Update. Thank you to everyone who weighed in on my post. I appreciate all the advice and thoughts, even from those of you who called me an asshole and or privately messaged me to tell me to basically bully Paula until she uninvited herself. I will not be doing that, but thank you so much. After posting yesterday, I sat with my feelings and tried to figure out why I was having such a strong, I don't want to invite her, response given that we have always gotten along fine when we see each other. I came to the conclusion that the thing that was really bothering me was the indirectness of it all. I couldn't understand why Paula didn't just reach out to me herself, and it made me worry that I had done something to make her feel like she couldn't. But I also decided that it was more important for her to feel included than for me to have the perfect close-knit group trip I had been envisioning. Like everyone pointed out, it's just one weekend, and she will presumably be in my life forever. So I called her yesterday evening, the first time either of us has ever called the other LOL, and the convo went like this. Me, hi Paula. I'm about to send over all the bachelorette info, and I'm so excited that you'll be there. I just wanted to check in though and make sure that you know you can totally reach out to me about things like this going forward. I hope I haven't done or said anything to make you feel like you can't, and if I have, I'd love for us to talk it through. Paula, long confused silence. That's really nice of you, but I think there's been a miscommunication or something. I hadn't been planning on coming to your bachelorette. Me, also confused. Oh, okay. I just thought, since Matt asked me to send you the info. Paula, he what? Me, confusion intensifies. Paula, I'm going to talk to him real quick. Let me call you back. 10 very stressful minutes later, Paula called back and basically said that Matt got in his head about worrying that Paula was feeling hurt and left out, which she was not. She was like, no offense. This trip sounds like my worst nightmare, lol, and he had the galaxy brain idea to parent trap us into thinking that Paula was supposed to come on this trip. Instead of just talking to either of us. The end result is that Paula has no desire to come to the bachelorette and never did in the first place. Matt has apologized, and this all encompasses the most in-depth conversation about our feelings that we have ever had with each other. Growth. Gotta love a stoic Midwestern family. Paula and I are also going to get dinner over the holidays, which will be nice and hopefully an opportunity for us to get to know each other better. Thanks again to everyone who gave their input, and sorry if you were hoping for a more dramatic update. Stories number 21. I just yelled at a rude boomer customer and I feel great about it. My job consists of office work handling offers, orders and shipments. We have a customer in his late 60s infamous for his behavior. He loves to yell, insult and treat our workers like shit. My boss already told me that if he yells I can just hang up the phone. Nobody wants to talk to this guy. The last time we sent a technician to his company he yelled at the technician and parked a forklift behind his company car preventing him from leaving. All because our technician couldn't finish the work and had to return the next day. His behavior has caused many of our technicians to refuse going to his company. Usually I can handle the guy pretty well and he sometimes raises his voice at me, but today was the breaking point. His way of calling is usually yelling and then hanging up the phone after you try to talk with him. I'm completely alone in my department because everyone is sick. It's end of the year meaning that there's a ton of work to do, so I'm already quite stressed. The guy sent me an email yesterday because one of his orders was incomplete. I don't have the time to check it and was planning on doing that today afternoon. He calls me and immediately yells at me saying that I'm incompetent and can't do my job and insulted me as well, calling me lazy and generally being disrespectful. I answered politely that I'm sorry but we have a huge workload and we are trying to do everything as quickly as possible. When I was about to tell him that I was going to check his problem, he starts yelling on the phone to the point where I almost had to remove my headset. I fucking lost it. I told him that he's not the only customer in this company and that I demand he talks to me in a respectful way without yelling. He keeps yelling and I yelled back calling him rude and obnoxious and then hanged up the phone. I stood up and went for a short walk around the office. Went to my boss and told him what had happened. For a moment I felt all sorts of emotions. First I was angry and sad because nobody deserves to be handled like this at work, but afterwards I felt relieved. My boss told me that I did well and that this customer is about to go on our blacklist because he does this to everyone, even to him. I don't know, but I felt great afterwards. Has this happened to anyone else? Edit. He sent me an email right now saying that he had received a package with the missing item yesterday. Stories number 22. Am I the asshole for refusing to sell my inheritance? My husband, 31M, and I, 33F, randomly got to talking about our future living situation. We currently own our home in a small rural town. Keep in mind, my parents are alive and well, hopefully, for a very long time, and this is all future talk. I grew up on a hobby farm located on a couple hundred acres. The majority of which pays for itself, as the government pays us to keep it undeveloped. When my parents pass, they have said that the land will be divided between myself and my two siblings. The issue comes when I mention that it's nice to have the flexibility of having paid off land if we want to build there someday, or leave it and let our family hunt it, etc. My husband immediately got defensive and said he would never live in my hometown. I reassured him he never would have to, we'd just leave our piece to our kids, it's no big deal. He started getting a bit heated and repeating that we'd never live there, so we'd sell it. I immediately said that would never happen. He kept at it, saying it was stupid to keep land that we weren't living on that could be used to pay for land in a place we'd want to build. I reiterated it pays for itself, it's zero burden on our finances to keep, and I'd never sell an acre, because I grew up there and it holds sentimental value. It got heated and he implied it was a joint decision, to which I reminded him that inheritance is not a marital asset. It is mine alone and would then go to our children. I also have grandparents that own miles around the land, that potentially could be included, so selling any of it makes zero sense when it could be a great asset later used by our children, nieces, and nephews. Needless to say, he's irritated with me and we aren't speaking currently. Personally, the decision isn't up for discussion, it's my choice. If it were just inherited money, of course I'd use it for the family and we'd decide more so as a team, but am I the asshole for not entertaining the idea? Edit, thank you for all of the reassurance. It was never up for discussion on my end. I'd never sell any land. I am incredibly headstrong and stubborn, so my mind won't be changing, ever. My children are always my top priority, and his as well. I think he's thinking we'll leave whatever land we'd buy with the money to them and it would be the same, but it's not to me. This is land I grew up on, trees I climbed, places where I buried my pets. It's not going outside the family. This was very out of character for him, so I'd say something else is maybe the root cause. Either way, I'm expecting a massive apology and explanation. In the meantime, I'll sit back confidently, knowing I'm in the right. Stories number 23. My mom explained why she's always been partial to my sister. Okay, so I, 17M, have a twin sister, and if I'm being honest, our mom has always seemed more partial to her. She's always far quicker to give her hugs and compliments, and she seems a bit more emotionally distant to me. I've noticed it my whole life and I've tried not to let it bother me, but things finally came to a head recently. I don't really want to get into the inciting incident that started this. Long story short, we've been looking at colleges and I was upset because it seemed like she wanted my sister to stay local more than she wanted me to, and I told her she loved my sister more than me our whole lives and she didn't give a shit about me, and I'm still not sure why. Today she came in my room and asked if we could talk, and she said there's something she felt it was time to tell me. Then she opened up about her childhood, something she's never done, and explained that her father abused her sexually and she had brothers who abused her too, and it instilled a deep disdain towards men in her. She told me she's been meaning to go to therapy and get help, but she told me it breaks her heart that she ever made me feel like she loved me less than my sister, and she's been trying my whole life to get the fuck over it and grow up, and that it breaks her heart that I haven't had the mom I deserve. She started crying and I hugged her and told her I loved her and she was a great mom and I was lucky to have her. Afterwards I suggested we go out to dinner, just the two of us, and I could pay, and she said she'd take me up on that under the condition she'd pay. So we had a really nice dinner and we talked and I felt I connected with her in a way I hadn't before. I can't really explain it, but I felt like I saw her and she saw me in a different, but good way. Overall, gonna be honest, I feel terrible because I feel like I made her trauma all about me. She's a wonderful person and I don't know why I'd accuse her of not loving me like she loves my sister. Alls I know is that I'm gonna be better to her and understand she's doing her best, as we all are. That's all. Just figured I'd share somewhere. Edit, okay, yes, my mom has been making mistakes with not getting treatment and how she's been more partial to my sister than me. However, that doesn't mean she's a horrible mother like a bunch of comments are insinuating. She's a human being in pain and she was able to admit when she did something wrong, and just so everyone knows she did make some calls and has an intake therapy appointment on Wednesday. If I made my mother sound like she hated me or was blatantly awful to me, she doesn't and she isn't. I love her and she loves me and we're going to do better from now on. Update, 1 month later. So I made a post last month talking about how my mother opened up to me about why she's always seemed more partial to my sister. I was going to post an update 2 weeks ago, but the Reddit app crashed and I lost the post as I was close to finished with it and I rage quit and lost the drive to write another one. That being said, thank you to some of the people commenting asking for an update. You helped bring the drive back, smiley face. For those of you who haven't read my original post, to make a long story short, my mother was sexually abused her whole childhood by almost every single one of the men in her life, including her father, older brothers, and some older students at school. These horrible experiences ended up instilling a deep disdain towards men inside of my mother, and my whole life I always felt she connected with my sister more than me and made more of an effort to connect with her than me, and I confronted her about it recently. Then, for the first time, she told me what had happened in her childhood to make her more partial to women and agreed to get therapy to help her with her problems. So before I get into my update, a few things. First, people were asking about my father and well, I've never met him. My mother has never told us about him aside from the fact that he left her to mother us all by herself at the last second. Like really, all by herself, we don't have any family members we talk to. Additionally, people accused her of telling me the story to manipulate me and get herself a pass, and that's just not true. If you want to argue she wasn't taking care of herself in the way she should have, then sure, you're not wrong. However, she's not abusive or shitty like that. She's just a person in pain. Now on to the update. She goes to therapy on Monday afternoons and I've been going with her to her sessions and we get dinner afterwards. To be honest, the main reason I started going with her to make sure she goes, and that's been going well. She walked out of one session crying this month, but that's just how it goes sometimes. I've also been seeing eye to eye with my mom in a way I never have, and I've even been getting along better with my sister, who she also ended up telling about her childhood, and my sister has been insanely compassionate towards both me and our mom and sometimes will intentionally leave my mother and I alone so we can bond. And don't make any mistake, she is trying her darndest to connect with me. She's been asking me questions about my hobbies and engaging in them with me, and I do believe she's a great mom. I'll close this out with an uplifting story from a few nights ago. So my sister and I watched some TV together and were up late, so we started heading to bed but heard our mom in her bed crying. We looked at each other and neither of us knew why she was crying, but I know she's been in pain, so I went inside and without saying anything lied down her bed next to her. She stopped crying and seemed surprised, but then my sister came into the room and also without saying a word got into the bed next to us. My mom started crying again, a good cry this time, and gave us both a hug and said, "I love you guys," and the three of us all went to sleep together. It genuinely made me feel like my sister and I were little kids again. Obviously we had a lot less space than we did back then and were packed tightly together, but it was wonderful and reminded me of the old days when we'd all fall asleep together. Anyway, yeah, that's the update. Thank you to the people who were commenting asking me to post the update and to anyone who left a supportive comment on my last post. It means a lot, smiley face. Update, 2 months later. So I figured I'd post another update. I've made posts about my mother who explained to me how she was sexually abused by all the men in her childhood, which is why she's always seemed partial to my twin sister, and you can just go to my post history to see the full story because I don't particularly care to summarize it again. This one's not as happy. Ever since I first confronted her about it, I've had this sense of resentment towards her I've been trying to compartmentalize and deal with later, or at least in my own therapy sessions. As of late it's been getting harder to ignore them, and over the weekend I lost my temper and yelled at her asking why she thought it was okay to wait so long to get help and how she probably wouldn't have done anything if I didn't call her out for her bullshit. She heard me out and started to cry and said the only thing she can say is I'm right and I've always deserved a mom who would outwardly love me as much as my sister, and it breaks her heart I didn't get that mother, and all she can say is she's sorry and hopes I can forgive her someday. I didn't say anything in return and just left the house. I haven't confronted her since and I know she feels bad and the shitty part of me feels good about that, but I know she needs all the support she can get, so it's just a shitty situation all around. This is probably above Reddit's pay grade, but I figured I'd post it anyway. Update, 10 months later. I was thinking today and randomly remembered a year ago, 18M, posted about me telling my mom that she's obviously always loved my twin sister more than me, and then he explaining how she grew up in a house with a father and brothers who regularly sexually assaulted and raped her, and she projected that disdain towards men onto me. Since then, my mother, my sister, and I have been seeing our own individual therapists and we've had several group sessions together. So today, my sister is away at college and I stayed local and go to community college. Something, I think, I mentioned in my old post was my mom was pushing me to go away to school and encouraging my sister to stay local. Funny how that happens. Anyway, my sister is coming back home this week for the holidays, but I've honestly really enjoyed it here with my mom. She's been making an effort lately to engage with me with the things like passionate about, and I'm a big movie fan, so I've been showing her my favorite movies over the past few months. She's made an insane amount of progress as well and I'm so proud of her, and we have a wonderful relationship. It certainly wasn't always pretty over the past year, and even though the work isn't always easy, the payoff is certainly worth it. So yeah. We're doing a lot better than we were when I made that original post last year. Stories number 24. Am I the asshole for refusing to buy my husband any more gifts? I, 35F, have been with my husband James, 39M, for 12 years, and we have this argument like clockwork every single birthday and Christmas, but I've had enough. I hate surprises, and I hate surprise gifts even more because I lived in clutter with my parents, and being forced to keep a present to not offend someone bothers me because then I grapple with frustration, guilt, and general annoyance because now there's a thing taking up space that I don't know what to do with. James, on the other hand, loves surprise gifts, but he is super picky. He does this thing where he will tell someone, "Oh, I'm alright with anything," but when he gets that anything, he will make some remark about how he actually wanted XYZ, which dampens the mood and makes him sound so childishly ungrateful. It drives me mad because the most hypocritical thing is that if I do that to him, i.e., say, "Oh, I actually wanted XYZ, he'll get upset and say that I should be grateful, e.g., he bought me a dress he thought I'd like for my birthday. Despite me telling him over and over and over and over and over again how much I would have liked a specific pair of earrings. I gave a weak thanks and he was sulky all evening, especially when my friends bought me something else off my wish list and I was so happy. And it's not about the price either, because the things he surprises me with are always either more expensive or around the same price as what I actually asked for. Now, I've tried my hardest to figure out what he'd like, but I always somehow miss the mark. For instance, one year I managed to force him to tell me that he'd like any, keyword there, Apple product, but when I got him a new iPad to replace his old one, he said that he'd actually prefer AirPods. I returned the iPad and he got upset. Another year, he told me he wanted jogging socks from a specific brand, but when he got them, he said that he actually wanted another variant of it. Another year, he kept talking about a specific type of wallet for 6 months straight, sending me posts about it, reviews, whatever, and I got it for him, thinking I've cracked the code. You know what he said? "If you guessed actually, I wanted something else, then you are absolutely correct." Rinse and repeat. This year, I tried to ask him again to at least give me a hint to work with, and he playfully told me to surprise him. Years of pent-up frustration got the best of me and I told him that he's an ungrateful child and I will not be surprising him. If he wasn't going to tell me, then he gets nothing. I also told him to stop surprising me with stuff I don't even want, because he's a hypocrite whose feelings will get hurt if I don't fall to my knees thanking him, I exaggerate, for something I don't want. I'm done coddling him over gifts because it's stupid and causing undue stress to me. As per the usual, he's gone off to sulk, and I feel terrible for lashing out at him. Am I the asshole? Stories number 25. Am I the asshole backing out of all social events because one person I don't like is there? Throwaway for privacy. I need a truly impartial judgment because everyone I've asked has some skin in the game and is mixed on view. I, 25F, don't like this girl Ellie, 28F. I also work with her, at one of my 2 jobs, important for later. I think she's annoying, way too performative, and I've also caught her telling random lies to our coworkers. I don't like being around her and only interact with her at work if I have to. Me and my group of friends were out at a bar a few months ago and Ellie coincidentally was there. She walked over to me to say hi and is now part of my friendship group. All of my friends know how I feel about her, have heard her crazy behaviors at work and why I don't like to be around her. However, the majority of them like her, we're a group of 9, and she's been embraced. Ellie is a part of our group chat. Most of the time when we make plans, she comes too. I brushed it off the first couple of times, but now I've decided not to go to anything where she's also coming. Because I work 2 jobs, I only have 1 day off a week fortnight. It varies depending on shift patterns. I really value that time and decided I don't want to waste it being around someone I don't like. I've never tried to play the hand of me being in the group first or issuing an ultimatum to pick one of us, I just decline and sit at home. As a result, I see my friends about once a month instead of a few times a week, after work when I have energy or on my day off, because I don't want to see Ellie for 8 hours where I can't stand her and then proceed to be in her presence for the rest of my evening. Everyone in the friend group has picked up on it and constantly invite me to plans where Ellie is also attending, but I keep my stance firm and decline. My 2 friends who like her the most, Grace and Jess, are calling me childish and say I'm forcing them to choose between us, but I insist I'm not and I'm happy staying at home. I really am, I can't stand Ellie. They keep calling me to change my mind, even created a separate chat to talk about it, but I don't budge and they think I'm being an asshole about it and I should just be a bigger person and go anyway. Am I the asshole? Stories number 26. I'm hearing what sounds like a subliminal message in our house, but my parents cannot hear it. For context, I have used subliminal messaging and I know what it sounds like. January 4th, 2024. I had a friend gift me some subliminal a while back and I used them without much success, and by that, I mean I found it difficult to keep up the regimen because I'm a tad lazy, which ironically was one of the things it was supposed to fix. Oops. But I do believe in the power of the subliminal. I say this just to put into context that I know what a subliminal audio file sounds like. I started hearing this new sound yesterday shortly after my dad installed a new Ring alarm system. My parents both cannot hear it, but it's clear as day for me. I can hear it everywhere in the house, and even some distance outside, but getting far enough away from the house, it stops, so I know it's not in my head. I haven't told my parents that it sounds like subliminal messaging, just that it's a high-frequency sound similar to white noise. We tried turning off a bunch of electronics, removing the alarm from the house, and even shutting off the power to the entire house, but the sound persists. I heard it until I fell asleep last night, and heard it immediately upon waking this morning, and it has been going non-stop. I'm kind of out of ideas on what to check to get to the bottom of it. Any suggestions would be most appreciated. Thank you. Edit, this is an example of what I'm hearing, it's a clip of the subliminal my friend gave me. Edit 2, some people are saying that the above sounds like white noise. It's not white noise. This is white noise. If you cannot hear the sound in the subliminal, or believe that the subliminal and white noise sound the same, it just means that you're one of the people that can't hear high frequencies, which tends to happen to humans as they get older. Edit 3, I'd just like to thank everyone who's commented so far. Though we haven't found the cause of this, I'm grateful for the assistance. This seems to be a divisive topic as not all humans have the same range of hearing, so my explanations may not make sense to some, but I appreciate your input just the same. Hope I can find out what is going on. Also sorry if I sound like a dick in some of my replies, the sound is really bugging me and I have had to just leave the house sometimes to get away from it and it's making me cranky. Edit 4, perhaps some people have misunderstood when I said it sounds like a subliminal message. I was only referring to what it sounds like, but I should have realized that many people do not know what a subliminal audio file sounds like. I should have described it as the sound a CRT TV makes and it is turned on and left on. More people are familiar with that than subliminals LOL, and it's a lower frequency so more people can hear that than a subliminal. Update 1. So my sisters came over after I asked them to come by for a movie night. They both heard the sound within seconds of entering the home and asked about it. They arrived at the same time as they came in the same car. Neither I nor my parents had told them about the sound prior. I appreciate everyone who commented in the previous thread, but since we've established that this does exist in reality, please no more mentions of seeing a doctor or psychiatrist. The bad news is that we still don't know where the sound is coming from. My sisters mentioned it was really annoying while watching the movie, but didn't care to help look for it. But at least it got my parents to acknowledge that the sound exists. Another thing, in the previous post, I used a very poor choice of words in likening it to a subliminal message, as I now realize that most people have no idea how subliminal work and assumed I was hearing voices or messages. This was never the case. There were never any words being heard, only the high-frequency sound. One savvy Redditor pointed out that it sounded like a CRT TV sound, which immediately resonated, with me as a much better analogy as the CRT and the type of subliminal I was talking about, and thus the sound I am hearing, are all mostly identical, though the CRT is a much lower frequency so many more people can hear it. So, yeah, totally my fault for supplanting the subliminal message thought. I can see why so many people were quick to assume it was in my head. Though we still don't know exactly where it's coming from, our best guess is that perhaps it is some latent electronic device or old wiring that's gotten exposed or something. Sadly, we don't have the money to hire someone to go digging around checking the wires. But my dad is a technician, and he said he'll try to take a look when he has time, if that even is the issue. It's technically still up in the air. But any other ideas are still welcome and appreciated. Update 2. It's tinnitus. I had indeed left the house to go for a drive on day 2, and I could still hear it. I convinced myself that it was phantom noise due to having heard it for the entirety of the previous 20 hours or so. But yesterday I went to work for the first time and heard it the whole time. I was so sure it was something outside of me that I made up the bit about my sisters coming over and hearing it. They never came, nor did I ask them to. I was too afraid of the possibility that I'd actually have tinnitus that I was determined for it to be something else, anything else. I felt bad for lying because all of the people that responded to me were genuinely trying to help and I acted like a huge dick to you all. If you suggested that it was in my head, you were right. Sorry for ignoring you. Any other suggestions were welcome as well, because at least it afforded me a little bit of hope in thinking it could be old wiring or the Ring fire alarm or a pest control device installed by a neighbor. But it wasn't any of those. I even hoped that washing my ears out with water might make it stop, but the ringing is still there. I assume I'll probably get used to it eventually. But I'm a stubborn son of a bitch, case in point. Thank you all for your help in solving this, and again, sorry for lying to you. Cheers. Stories number 27. Am I the asshole for refusing to coordinate my stepson's school and activities? I, 43F, have traditionally done all things school and in between for both kids. 13M stepson and 6F daughter. I organize all the various dress-up days, concerts, sports, activities, clothing, back to school, grades, literally everything. Recently my stepson has been really ungrateful and downright rude to me. I missed a dress-down day and he asked me if he could receive all the emails from now on because I didn't get it right. He regularly insinuates that I don't have it together and he needs RO micromanage me. In reality I sign him up on time and I remember all of his practices and communicate with coaches, and do all his little extras at school like movie day, back to school shopping, everything. While doing this he forgets everything he's asked to do or any regular chores like feeding the dogs and letting them out. He rarely does what is asked of him and when he does it is with a lot of complaining. Everything said to him brings arguments. Whether they make sense or not he's arguing. Typical teen stuff I know. Am I the asshole for forwarding all school emails etc. to his dad, who 1000% will forget to sign him up for basketball or regularly pay any attention to dress codes or secret Santas or wherever he has any socks or basketball shoes or a phone charger or school clothes or whatever while I focus on my 6YO? I think he would learn to appreciate me pretty quickly. I'll add that I only missed a dress-down day because we were moving, and I was finishing a postmaster's certificate, the end of a doctorate semester, and working full-time. Edit, occasionally he has to get his sister on the bus when I work weekdays, I get her totally ready. Today, he took her down the 4-mile driveway in 35-degree weather in a dress with no coat. And argued with me that it wasn't his fault. Update. Last night after work I let my SS know that he would be responsible for remembering his various school dress days and activities as requested by him. I told him he should go to school today and ask his teacher to be added to the email list and I plan to call the school to make sure he isn't already receiving them. I am sure they are telling him these things in class and on Canvas and he's ignoring them already. I also gave the class parent his dad's email and I will make sure dad is receiving school-wide emails as well, since he was on the enrollment forms and should be already. Dad is fully behind this as he has told me for a while to let my SS miss out and learn life lessons and stop organizing his life for him. For me I just thought that was lazy parenting, because my parents never did anything for me and neglected everything and got angry when I asked for basic necessities, but that's a different story, but my eyes are opening. Yes, he is a teen, and regardless of how things sound in theory, it is very frustrating to deal with in real time. I try to blow it off but after so much of it going unchecked, I am fed up. I do not feel unreasonable for asking him to put a coat on his sister before they walk to their shared bus in the morning. The way my job is set up he has to do this less than 20% of the time and she is fully ready when I leave. He also gets what he wants and needs without having really any chores. Dad also doesn't think they need set chores only to help when asked. My husband also helps. He does anything I ask. No, it's not weaponized incompetence, it's me being too controlling to be honest, and he definitely does his share of parenting. I have access to computers, faxes, scanners and printers at work. He is on an outside job site. Naturally I will do these types of tasks, and I enjoy it. He drives them to practices etc. in the evening weekends because I loathe that task. My apologies if it seemed like I was throwing him under the bus as lazy in my OP, that was not the intention. I do a lot but he does his part too. Thank you for all of your great advice. Stories number 28. I had an ongoing affair with my au pair as a kid when I was 15. When I was 14 to 15 we had an au pair, primarily for my younger siblings. She was 22 to 23 while she was with us. The sexual tension was palpable and shortly after my 15th birthday we developed a sexual relationship. This was maybe 9 months after she started, 3 before she left. My parents would go to sleep and about an hour later we would rendezvous for a night of what I perceived as a lot of fun. I enjoyed it. I of course thought it was cool, but I also think it has had an effect on my sexual behavior for the past almost 25 years. The fantasy of an older woman and someone in more of a caretaker role has never subsided. And here we are. Stories number 29. Am I the asshole for refusing to host in-laws for Christmas? I'm 26, married happily to 30, M. We bought a 4BD, 3-bath house in 2023 close to Christmas, and as a holiday gesture, my husband asked if we could host his entire family, which includes mom, dad, 2 sisters, and their partners, 4 nephews, for Christmas. They would stay 4 or 5 nights, spend Christmas and leave on Boxing Day. Relevant backstory: none of them live in town and all live about 5 to 8 hours drive away from us in a remote town. In previous years, Christmas was hosted at his parents' or grandma's place with other extended family members, aunties and uncles. 2023 was the first time all the members of his family could be under one roof and celebrate. I was strongly opposed because I just didn't want to host 10 people for 3 nights. I'm a huge introvert and don't even want to be around my own family friends that much. I didn't want to set a precedent and have it become an expectation going forward. I grudgingly accepted as a one-time thing and everyone seemed to have a blast. Adults had the rooms, kids slept on a pike in the den. I planned food menus, activities for all 3 days. Everyone pitched in and helped, especially with the Christmas dinner, and there were no major incidents. However, I was still extremely relieved when they left. Fast forward to this year and we have been asked about our plans and if we can host this year, but we both work Christmas Day. Although he's told them no for now, my husband is already insinuating to me he would like to host them for next year. I'm putting my foot down because I'm not setting a precedent to house and host every alternate year. My husband is making me feel like I don't understand the point of Christmas and it's supposed to be with family even if it's slightly inconvenient. I have suggested everyone getting a hotel and just having Christmas Day gifts and dinner here, but he feels we have the space to have everyone over. I would even be okay with maybe every 5 to 7 years but not every second year, but he wants it often so it becomes a tradition. I know he's not going to throw me under the bus, and if I don't agree, he'll be the one to tell them no. I just don't want to commit to something this big every other year. Am I the asshole? Stories number 30. Am I the asshole for secretly anticipating my wife would cancel a planned trip, because she is a serial canceller of plans? My wife, in most ways ideal, has an annoying tendency to agree to plans she knows she doesn't want to do and then to cancel at the last minute with a confected excuse. It's happened enough that I am ready when I run into a friend of hers to he asked, "Is, wife, feeling better?" And to unhesitatingly answer with a generic, "She's still recovering," even when I know she's perfectly healthy. She planned to fly with our kids to see her sister this weekend through Christmas. I booked the tickets, will become important to the story. Today, she came to me and said she had too much work and wanted to tell her sister she had an ear infection and would not be able to fly. I said, "Okay, that's fine." She seemed surprised I wasn't more upset. I said it worked out well, because now I could take the kids out west to our vacation home to ski. She asked how I could get tickets at a reasonable cost on short notice. I said I knew she'd probably cancel, so I paid extra for refundable tickets and at the same time bought another set of refundable tickets out west. That way we'd be covered either way. She was annoyed at me for doing it, saying it was a backhanded way of proving your point about her constant cancellations. Is she right, or was I merely making a prudent booking choice? Stories number 31. Why are daughters expected to step up for elderly care while the sons can live their life? My grandparents are going downhill fast. They live with my mentally disabled uncle and everyone else is out of state with me living closest. 8 hours away, my mother, their daughter, is unwilling and unable to step up and take care of them, so I am doing so instead. This has been me getting medical proxy POA, setting up transportation for my uncle who still works, getting them an in-home caretaker, driving up to take care of them when I can, etc. Alongside of this, I am also dealing with difficult end-of-life care for my dog who is dying from cancer. I had started renovating my house before any of this started and am doing a majority of the labor myself with strict deadlines for the professionals to come in that have been booked for months. I have also been working OT at work for a project launch. There has been so much to do and learn, and it's absolutely overwhelming to say the least. To lessen the burden, I asked my younger brother, 30, to do some of the research for me and he enthusiastically agreed to help. The 2 things I have asked of him so far: research what transportation company would be best for my uncle so I can set it up for him. Research how to set up a computer that my grandmother can't lock herself out of, and I will set it up when I am there. That's it, that's all I have asked of him. It's been a month since then and he has done nothing. Nothing, despite weekly reminders and setting deadlines. I was complaining about this to my dad, divorced from my mom and unrelated to these grandparents, who immediately jumped to defend my brother. He accused me of putting too much on my brother's plate while he is going through such a tough time. That tough time? His apt flooded 2 months ago and he is living with his GF while his landlord renovates it. That's it. Stories number 32. My own wedding was a shitshow and I still shake my head almost 25 years later. Disaster. Hi there everyone. Long-time lurker, felt it was okay to share my experience. I was with my ex-husband for just shy of 4 years when we got married. It would have been sooner, but he refused to tell his parents he wanted us to get engaged. After another year, he tells his folks and we get the ball rolling. I didn't want a serious formal wedding. His mother insisted that we get married in a Catholic church, parents are very religious. I wanted to see if we could compromise somehow, but I was told, either it's in the church, or you're not marrying my son. Defeated, I agree. Church wedding it is. We paid for everything. My mom was unhappy with us getting married, because you are ruining his life and I don't agree with it. She never elaborated what exactly I was doing that was so wrong. My mom disengages from any planning with me and goes radio silent. My folks didn't meet his until the wedding day. We had been together for 4 years and there was 3 hours of driving between the two families. Nobody was keen on meeting anyone and at the wedding, they were polite, but not warm or welcoming. I dragged my feet getting the white dress, because I hated that it's only wearable once and cost almost 3 months of rent. I picked out dresses by myself with my MOH. My mom felt bad, gave me an envelope of cash to help pay for the dress, about half, which I was very thankful for. Very unexpected. Night before the wedding at the rehearsal, I was hit by another car. Bumper damaged, but I was very late but okay. No bachelor or bachelorette party. Wedding day hits. MOH snored terrible and I didn't sleep at all. She's getting me into my dress, I did my own makeup and hair. My mom arrived with my stepdad and grandmother. She is both angry and on edge. Every picture of her looks like she's a millimeter away from hitting someone. Wedding finishes, we go next door to the church hall for the reception. His folks felt bad our budget was so tiny, so they cooked the food and bought the cake. I had zero idea of what the cake even was until I saw it at the reception. No dancing, no music. No music at the ceremony either. Friend was supposed to be the DJ, never showed up nor called. Absolutely silent Catholic weddings are very peculiar. 10 minutes into the reception, my mom has a tantrum. She was angry at driving 3 hours to get to the church the morning of, when I told her get a hotel room the night before and avoid the rush. Food is just being served, she gets even more angry. Tells me, I will stay longer at your next wedding and leaves. Cake hasn't been cut yet. Hurriedly cut cake. Nobody helped serve cake, so my brand new husband is serving the cake instead of talking to people or enjoying the reception. I am very anxious, so I am amusing myself by sitting by myself, sucking helium from the balloons and cursing under my breath to make myself smile. Everyone leaves very quickly. His family and my husband and I clean up everything. When getting changed out of my dress, I discovered my MOH didn't fasten all the buttons down my back. Maybe half were buttoned. We lasted 16 years before I left. My ex-husband is still a good friend and we trade recipes and cat stuff. The whole experience was so poor. I know that the main thing was we got married. That was a good thing. Looking back after almost 25 years, I still feel sad and I felt like I had to concede everything. Anyway, sorry for the length. It was quite the shit show and I still wince thinking about it. Stories number 33. Am I the asshole here for refusing to let my deadbeat brother live with me rent-free? So, I, 34M, have a younger brother, Jake, 29M, who has always struggled to keep a job or stay consistent with anything. For as long as I can remember, he's been hopping from one passion project to another, never sticking with anything long enough to make a living. My parents have been enabling him for years, letting him live with them rent-free while he finds himself. Now, my parents have finally decided they're done supporting him, and Jake has come to me asking if he can move in for a while. I asked him what his plan was, and he said he just needed a break from life to figure things out. When I pressed him about getting a job, he got defensive and said, "Not everyone is meant to work for the man like you." He thinks the traditional 9 to 5 is beneath him but hasn't exactly come up with a sustainable alternative. I told him he could stay for 1 month, but after that, he'd need to either contribute to rent or find somewhere else to go. He flipped out, calling me selfish and saying family is supposed to help each other without conditions. He even tried guilt-tripping me, saying I'm living comfortably while he's struggling, so I should share the wealth. For context, I've worked hard to get where I am. I have a stable job, a mortgage, and bills to pay. I don't have the luxury of lounging around and chasing whims. I don't feel it's fair for him to expect me to carry him, especially since he has no intention of helping himself. Now, some family members are saying I'm being too harsh and that Jake just needs some support. But I feel like I'd just be enabling his behavior like my parents did. So, am I the asshole here for setting boundaries and refusing to let my brother freeload off me? Edit. Sorry to deceive you all, but it was necessary to prove my point. Guys, every time a post ends with, half my friend's family are on my side, and half on the other, it's always ChatGTP. You ask it to write you any am I the asshole here story, and it always puts that at the end. I really hate just how gullible everyone on Reddit is, especially in this sub. They just love the rage bait. Go ahead and ask ChatGTP to write you any am I the asshole here posts, and it will always add on the part about how half agree with you, and half disagree. Obviously, people are too lazy to just remove this part, because they know none of you know about it, and are just farming karma. Stories number 34. How do I stop my brother's dead girlfriend's mom, 55F, from ruining my 26F wedding if he, 23M, brings his new girlfriend, 21F? TW, SA, cancer, death. I, 26F, am getting married in a year. This will be relevant later. 2 years ago, my family experienced 2 devastating losses within 3 months that we are still healing from. First, we received news that after a 2-year battle with cancer, my dad, 52M, only had 2 months left to live. My brother, Zach, 21M at the time, got special leave from the military to come home for us to go on one last family trip while our dad was still healthy enough to do so. We set out to our dad's favorite city, with plans to make some final happy memories and drink like it was the end of the world. In a way, it was. Exactly 1 day into that trip, my brother got a call from a college friend. His girlfriend, Ellie, 20F, on and off since they were 15, had been sexually assaulted and murdered her first week back at school. It was horrific, and the rest of the time was spent consoling my brother, staying in constant contact with Ellie's mom and stepmom, while still pre-grieving the loss of our father. Words cannot express the pain to those who have not experienced it, and those who have need no explanation. For context, Zach and Ellie were in crazy, stupid love. They were never mature enough for the strength of their emotions, often brought out the worst in each other, and were constantly breaking up and getting back together. But even when they weren't together, they were still best friends. They were so young, and we all hoped that as they matured they would figure out more healthy ways of being together, in whatever shape that would take. In Zach's words to Ellie's dad, we definitely caused chaos in each other's lives, but we loved each other. We flew home in time for Zach, my mom, and I to attend a vigil for Ellie at her school. My dad could not attend for obvious health reasons. When Ellie's mom, Deb, saw Zach, she just clung to him and cried. After the vigil, Zach had to return to base. The last time he ever saw our dad is when he hugged him goodbye. 2 months later, I dropped out of my graduate program for a semester to help my mom with my dad's end-of-life care. When it became apparent that he didn't have much time left, Deb, Ellie's mom, stepped up to plan my dad's celebration of life so that we could focus on caring for him. Deb is one of those people who knows everybody, so she was able to put together a perfect party in short order. We were incredibly grateful, but we were also aware that she wasn't doing it for completely selfless reasons. The timing worked out such that my dad's celebration was the Friday after he passed, and the following Saturday would have been Ellie's 21st birthday. Deb was throwing a big memorial birthday bash for her. Remember, this is less than 3 months since she lost her daughter, and her grief was still incredibly fresh. Planning my dad's celebration ensured that Zach would be able to attend both. Yes, the timing was serendipitous, but Deb's involvement was at least partly opportunistic. We were fine with it. She helped us so much, that her motivations didn't matter. This is when things start to get tricky, though. On Ellie's birthday, Zach and a few friends first went to dinner with Ellie's dad before going to Deb's party. Deb and her ex are on bad terms, only made worse by Ellie's death. When they showed up late to Deb's party, she made sure to say something about it. When Zach flew back to base, Deb got overly involved in his life from a distance. She would send gifts, got him a Sam's Club membership etc. until Zach finally had to ask her to stop because it was making him uncomfortable. A little under a year after Ellie's death, Zach started dating someone from his base, Rachel. We love Rachel. She keeps Zach focused. She's smart, responsible and friendly. She also lost her dad at a young age, so she has the experience to understand what Zach is going through. They've been together for over a year at this point and are already talking about getting married. I know it sounds early, but military marriages are often pretty quick. But when they started dating, Zach was terrified of Deb finding out. On a phone call with my mom, she made the comment along the lines of, "Don't think I'm not aware of that girl." While I understand wanting to keep your daughter's memory alive, Zach was now 22 at that point. Deb was not allowed to be angry that he wasn't staying celibate for the rest of his life, and both my mom and Zach had to have conversations with her about it. A few months ago, I attended an event for Ellie's would-be 22nd birthday. This time it was a fundraiser in Ellie's honor. Zach was on base, out of state, and could not attend it because he was still recouping the extra leave time he got from the ill-fated family vacation 2 years ago. Deb brought up how disappointed she was at Zach's absence twice. This brings me to my problem, I'm getting married next year. After everything Deb did for my family, and the traumas we've been through together, of course she's invited. On top of planning the celebration, she still checks in on my mom, she never misses with Father's Day, my dad's birthday, or his death day. But Zach will be bringing Rachel, and I don't want Deb to make either of them uncomfortable. I don't know if I can trust her not to make some comment about him missing Ellie's fundraiser, or overwhelm Rachel with stories about how perfect Zach and Ellie were. I need advice on how best to navigate this situation. How do I set boundaries here that will keep the peace and protect my brother without offending Deb? Edit, to those whose only suggestion is to not invite her, please stop if that is your only advice. If her behavior indicates a problem, I'm prepared to make that decision. What I'm asking for here is advice on how to navigate difficult conversations that would allow me to avoid that outcome. My brother of course comes first, but this woman is a family friend beyond just being Ellie's mom, and I care about how my actions impact her. Thank you to all who have contributed helpful advice. Stories number 35. Girlfriend received a text from me that I don't recall sending. So earlier this morning I was texting my GF, I sent a text and I ended up crashing. Woke up like 7 hours later to a text from her saying, "Go back to bed and then read that later," which was confusing because the text I remember sending was entirely coherent. So I opened my messages to see possibly the most hurtful text I've ever sent anyone, but there were so many typos and grammatical errors that half the text didn't even make sense, but the parts one could decipher were awful. I called her after the fact to explain myself and she says it's okay, but I'm going to ruminate for the rest of the day. What the hell happened? Stories number 36. Am I the asshole for asking my cousin not to eat my food? My 25M cousin, 24F, let's call her Amanda, has a mental impairment, so she acts about 6 to 8 years old. She is also a very picky eater, which makes holidays hard for her, and she usually just eats the rolls, and maybe a few bites of whatever the meat is. Her mom, my Aunt Wanda, never brings anything for her to eat despite knowing what food will be there. We have a family group chat so people don't bring the same or similar foods, and what my cousin won't eat. Another cousin, 23F, Elizabeth, has a severe dairy allergy, and her sister, 28F, Cameron, doesn't eat gluten. They always make and bring their own food. I am vegetarian and avoid dairy as much as possible. I always make and bring my own food, and eat what I can from what the rest of the family brings. Our family is respectful of our allergies and dietary needs, and does not eat what we bring for ourselves, so we don't cook a lot since it's just the three of us. At Thanksgiving, Elizabeth brought DFGF mashed potatoes and gravy, Camille brought salad in a veggie tray with DF dip, and I made a box of DFGF mac and cheese. I didn't think Amanda would want to eat the macaroni because it's not what she's used to, Kraft or Velveeta, and it does obviously taste different from standard macaroni. She's very sensitive to small flavor changes like that. We had our allergen-free food on a separate table, so people didn't accidentally take our food when there were larger portions of the same food but with the allergens in them. The only thing that we had that the rest of the family didn't was the mac and cheese. When all the food was out, Amanda saw the mac and cheese and went straight to our food table. I let her know that it was DFGF and was for just me, Elizabeth, and Camille, but if she wanted to try some and have some after we get our servings, she could. Instead, she ignored me and scooped up half of it onto her plate. I asked her to put some back because it wasn't fair to take all that when I made it for the three of us. She started screaming and crying saying that it wasn't fair that we have our special food that she can't eat, when there's hardly any food for her to eat, and no one makes food just for her. I knew with her being in that state that reasoning with her wasn't going to work, so I didn't say anything. Her mom came over and took her to sit and calm down. She took one bite of the macaroni, didn't like it, and threw the plate on the floor. Her mom took her into the kitchen and they made a box of Kraft macaroni for her to eat. Later, my Aunt Wanda told me it was inconsiderate of me to make food Amanda would think she likes, and that I forced my aunt to make her food while everyone was eating. Am I the asshole for asking her to wait until we got our food before taking some for herself? Stories number 37. My 33F husband, 34M, played a cruel prank on our son. How do I get him to make this up to him? We have been married for 8 years and have a 7-year-old son. They are both truly joys in my life and we get along well most of the time. We have a tradition that a week before Christmas, we would open a present early. Our son has been talking on and on about how he wanted the PS5 Pro and I assumed that my husband would get that covered as I already spent my money on other Christmas gifts for him and the rest of our family. Our son opened the big box that was presented and the box said PS5 Pro. The weight was even pretty similar to a box with the PS5 Pro. When he opened it up though, all he saw were rocks and a t-shirt that said "Number 1 Dad." I was furious but my husband was laughing and said that he used his friend's PS5 Pro box to pull off this prank. I insisted he make this up but he fired back and said that our son should be grateful at all that he gets paid attention to as many fathers are deadbeats. How do I get him to make this up to him? Stories number 38. Am I the asshole here for confronting my wife about her cheating on me after she got in a car accident? Me, 32M, and my wife, 31F, have been together for about 6 years and married for 2. We have recently been having some heated arguments here and there. I already posted about one of them and I don't want to beat that dead horse. Last night me and my wife had a long conversation about our last argument and we both agreed we need to change some ways of both of our thinking and some of our actions when angry. This morning was great. She let me know that she's covering one of her friend's shifts so she will be gone from 3 p.m. till they closed at 10 p.m. She left to go to work at 2:30 and I ran some errands and saw my mom for a couple hours. I got home about 6 hours later and after I was home for a while I saw that her iPad was blowing up with texts. I'm not usually one to want to look through texts but I noticed that it was 10:15 and she hadn't texted me that she was on the way back yet. Her work always closes right on the dot. I saw that these texts and calls she was getting were from her ex from before we were together telling her he had so much fun, to be safe on the way home and to call him so they could talk on the way home. The following texts were asking if she was okay and if she needed him to come help with anything. She then called me and told me she was just leaving work and she got rear-ended but that the damage wasn't too bad, she was just shaken up. I was honestly more worried about her and wasn't focusing on the ex at this point. She told me she was about to leave to come home and that she doesn't need me to come get her. She got home pretty shaken up and she cried a bit and I consoled her, and after a couple hours she calmed down and I started to think about what I saw. I brought it up and asked her if she was actually covering work for her friend or if she was with him and she immediately started crying and saying I was an asshole for accusing her of that after she got in an accident and that the person texting and calling wasn't her ex. It was a guy with the same name that she has been friends with for years who happened to run into her on her break. I have never heard of this guy. She's currently crying and I told her I was going to use the bathroom, hide and ask WTF I should do. Am I the asshole for bringing it up after the car accident? Stories number 39. Am I the asshole here for allowing our daughter to buy my ex-husband's family Christmas gifts? Context and full disclosure: my ex-husband and I have been divorced for nearly 10 years. He was physically abusive, I cheated. We were both assholes in that relationship. We have a daughter together but divorced when she was very young. Our daughter lives primarily with me, he sees her every other weekend. Since then, I'm, very happily, remarried and my husband is a fantastic stepdad. We've been together 8 years, married for 3. Ex-husband has been through a few relationships. His newest girlfriend he's been with for a couple months, and she has a daughter much younger than ours. Our daughter is at an age where she wants to be independent and do some things herself. This year she wanted to get Christmas gifts for everyone, including all of my ex's family, and my new husband's family. Obviously, she doesn't have her own money, so I transferred a set amount to her child's debit card and we went shopping together. I mostly just steered her away from choosing gifts that were too expensive. She chose things that were less than $10. She picked out all of the gifts. I wrapped them when we got home. They were things like hand cream sets, small Lego and Duplo sets, socks, hats, pretty generic Christmas gifts. Along with her aunts and uncles, she wanted to get my ex's new girlfriend and her daughter gifts as well. When I let my ex know by text that we would have a bag of gifts for everyone when he picks up our daughter for Christmas, I got called weird for picking out gifts on behalf of his girlfriend and that I should have told our daughter he would do that for her, but he hadn't and hadn't told me he would, and isn't picking her up until after Christmas. I'm not going to tell my daughter any of this. I'll just send her with the bag of gifts. Am I the asshole here for letting her pick things out, or should I have left it up to my ex to handle? Stories number 40. Am I the asshole for leaving a birthday dinner I invited the birthday girl out to and blocking her? Let me start by saying that by girl, I mean 47 years old women. Yesterday I realized through FB it was my husband's aunt's birthday. Upon calling her, she said nobody had planned anything for her birthday and that she was going to be alone. We invited her out to eat, just the three of us, me, husband, her. I however had an appointment to take my elderly mother to, and we wouldn't make it to the restaurant till 8 p.m. She hesitated because it was too late to eat but said okay. We went back and forth on a place most of the day. Finally I was fed up and gave her a place to meet us at. I called again in the afternoon to confirm and we were still on to meet. Long story short, my mom's appointment gets moved up and we finish faster, so I call her to see if she wants to meet up earlier since she made a big deal about the time. She agrees. We decide on 7 p.m, wow, what a difference in time, I know. Then she asks me if just her or if she can take her daughter and husband. I hesitate but say sure. Mind you, I'm paying for this dinner. I tell my son and mom to get ready so they can go as well since her daughter and husband were going. I texted her around 6 p.m. that I was picking up mom and son, again she replies okay. Text her again when I'm 20 minutes away from the restaurant, again okay. She lives closer, about 10 minutes from the place. I pull up to the restaurant at 7 p.m. sharp. Now let me say that I love punctuality, I thrive of that shit. I get that stuff happens sometimes, but this wasn't that time. Anyways, she's not there. The same person who was nagging me on changing the time, that 8 p.m. was too late for dinner. Blah, blah, blah. My husband calls her and she says they are still at the house and there has been another change now. Her other daughter, son-in-law and brother are coming. Now they're not gonna be there till after 8 p.m. because they're stopping to get a cake. WTF. I lost my shit. Husband hung up and I called her back to tell her we had left the restaurant. This was not what I had signed up for in the morning and I was not paying for all these people. She kept trying to call me and text me saying she was so sad about what I had done that she could cry. I blocked her and son, mom, husband and me went to have 99-cent tacos at our local market. Haven't talked to her and don't plan on apologizing. So, let me hear it. Am I the asshole for leaving and blocking her? Stories number 41. Am I the asshole for screaming at my aunt to get the hell out after she called my little sister, Miss Trunchbull? Not the a-hole. Using throwaway account because I know some of my family are on here. Sorry for any grammar issues, English is not my first language. My 17F, aunt, 40F, and cousins, 10F and 6F, came over to our house for a visit. My cousins and my little sister, 8F, were playing around the house. They were chasing each other around, I think they were playing tag. Me, my dad, and my aunt, who is his sister, were sitting at the kitchen table drinking coffee when my sister and oldest cousin ran past us. My sister was chasing after her. My aunt suddenly yelled out laughing, "Don't fall on her and squish her, Miss Trunchbull." My sister and I had just rewatched the movie Matilda a couple weeks ago, but I didn't really get the connection until my sister suddenly got very quiet before going to her room in tears. I looked up the character again on my phone and it clicked. I jumped up and started yelling at my aunt, that led to a screaming match between the both us until she grabbed her kids and left. My aunt has always been almond mom to her daughters, always saying weird stuff that she has to keep them skinny and that she'll make sure they're models one day. She has made remarks before to my sister that she eats too much. My little sister is chubby, not obese, but still chubbier than most of the kids in her class. She has gotten bullied for this before and is insecure of her weight. My aunt knew this since my sister genuinely loves her and talked to her about it before. I couldn't wrap my head around why she would say something so hurtful. I went to my sister's room and she was crying. She asked me why she can't be beautiful and it broke my heart. My parents said I overreacted, but I heard them talking in their room about how disrespectful it was that my aunt said that. I'm still grounded regardless. It's been a week since then, but my aunt called last night and basically said she won't see us until I apologize. Now, my parents are urging me to say sorry. I feel like I was right to have stood up for my sister, but at the same time so I don't want to lose connection with my cousins. I'm really confused if I should apologize or not because maybe I did overreact. I just don't know. So, Mita. Edit, I fixed the mistakes of calling my cousins my nieces, sorry for any confusion. Stories number 42. Am I the asshole for telling my sister that she shouldn't overvalue herself and prepare for the worst? I, 21F, have an older sister, Eve, 29F, who had her first child, Lori, 1F, and while this should be a time of joy and excitement, there's actually a lot of tension and brewing resentment between her, our mom, and her husband, Jack, 29M. Despite it being unplanned, Eve's pregnancy was wanted and Jack was an involved partner. He went to most of Eve's appointments, took the birthing classes, and supported Eve's decision to just have our mom in the room while he wanted outside when she gave birth. The plan was for our mom to be by Eve's side in the room and to help stay for a week after Lori was born. Everyone was cool with this, but unfortunately our aunt got into some drama with her husband in another state and our mom rushed over to be at her sister's side. Eve was already in her third trimester, so Jack didn't like the idea of our mom going and voiced it. Our mom tore Jack a new one and Eve even got on his case about it, so he apologized. However, Eve ended up going into labor and Jack ultimately was the one in the room while our mom was away. When she called, our mom expressed being sad over not being there for the birth of her first grandchild, and she and Eve decided that no one else in the family would see Lori until she got back. Without discussing it with Jack. He was understandably not happy as his mom lived about 45 minutes away and was looking forward to meeting Lori too, as she was the first grandchild on both sides. Eve pulled the "I just gave birth" card and Jack reluctantly allowed it. On the day that our mom was supposed to come back, she missed her flight and couldn't get a new one until the following morning. Our mom could have just rented a car, but she didn't want to spend the money since the airline wouldn't refund the money. Jack was brought up allowing his mom to come again, but Eve refused, citing that he already agreed. Unfortunately, Jack's mom was in a car accident and passed before ever getting to meet Lori since Eve wouldn't even allow a video chat. Jack was distraught. He moved to the guest bedroom, went to the funeral alone and refuses to engage with Eve at all. Jack's side of the family keeps calling and messaging Eve to tell her what a selfish and awful person she is, and Jack refuses to defend. Eventually, Eve got sick of it and packed up and left to our mom's house to teach Jack a lesson, but he hasn't texted or called. Our mom thinks that he just needs some space and that he'll call soon, but I just laughed at that. Didn't mean to though. My mom and Eve asked me why I laughed and I tried to brush it off or even leave, but they couldn't let me and pressed for answer. Eventually, I told her that while the accident wasn't her fault, she did keep Lori away from Jack's mom meeting her for a week and now she never will. There's no way Jack is going to ever love you enough to forgive that, and that you should prepare for the worst. Eve started to bawl her eyes out while mom berated me, so I left. Am I the asshole? Edit. Just to clarify, because I keep seeing this, when the accident first happened Eve has apologized 3 separate times, Jack has admitted to this, and Eve intended to go to the funeral with him but he drove off without her. Jack does interact with Lori, it's Eve that he's icing out, and my niece is the only thing he's willing to talk to Eve about. Jack had been living in the guest room for 5 months before Eve left. She's offered to go to couples counseling but Jack has refused. Hey. It's been a couple of weeks and due to people still occasionally asking, I thought I'd give people some quick updates to the situation. Here are the basic bullet points. My sister has now been officially diagnosed with postpartum depression, and that is the trump card Hail Mary of the situation. My sister and her husband are living together again and in couples therapy. My sister is in individual counseling. My niece has now been officially introduced to a few members of her paternal size and they all love her. Jack's family have ceased their negative comments about my sister, but she says that they're still pretty formal and distant towards her. I honestly don't know if she'll ever be in their good graces again and will only put up with her for my BIL and niece's sake. My niece's name first and middle is going to be legally changed to whatever Jack wants. For the next 5 years BIL's side of the family is getting priority when it comes to any and all holidays. My mom will be on a strict info diet when it comes to the baby. No pictures unless Jack approves. This is all I know for right now, and my mom is not happy with any of this and is calling Jack a controlling but my sister is holding firm in an effort to save her marriage. She claims that Bill and her are making progress in counseling, and I hope for her sake that it's true. It's gonna suck not being able to see my niece as much as I wanted for the next possible few years, but compared to never being able to see her at all, like Jack's mom, it is what it is. I know a lot of you may not be happy with this update, but it is what it is for now. Comment. Well, I read the original post and Jack is clearly taking revenge on Eve. Although Eve was a bit extra in how she went about the birth, waiting a week, or a week and a day, for Jack's mom to see the baby is not a crazy delay for which a woman should be castigated. Many people have to wait months to meet their grandkids because of distance or other reasons. The fact that Jack's mom got in a tragic accident on the exact same day as Eve's mom's flight was delayed, was just an unfortunate and highly unlikely series of events that no one could have predicted. It is extremely common for first-time mothers to want their own mother to have first preference in seeing the baby. Giving birth is a vulnerable time for a woman, and it's normal for the woman to want her own mother there and for the young mother to assert her right to have control over how the birth and the early days of her baby's life should go. If Eve's mom had been in an accident on her way back from her trip, and had passed away that day instead of Jack's mom, then it would be Eve's mom who wouldn't have met the baby. It's just the luck of the draw that it was Jack's mom who passed away. Accidents happen, people pass away, this is life. Now Jack is restricting access of Eve's family for 5 years, no pictures of the baby to Eve's mom unless Jack approves, and gets to change the baby's name to cut out Eve and IMO. All of that is clearly getting revenge and is a red flag MO. Yes, it is controlling, and has it occurred to you that maybe the reason Eve was so pushy about her mom having first look at the baby is because Jack has always had tendencies to be controlling and has always expected his family to come first over Eve's? Stories number 43. The amount of Christians who haven't actually read the Bible is shocking. How can you dedicate your life to a religion, but won't take the time to actually read the foundational text associated with it? How can you spend hours and hours throughout your life praying and going to church and not sit down and read about what you're actually praying about? Aren't you curious about the ideology you are pledging your life, and afterlife, to? I swear about half of the Christians I talk to have never actually read the Bible, and I'm skeptical of the half that said they have. After talking to them, it's pretty evident they haven't actually read it cover to cover. I actually enjoyed reading the Bible, it's super interesting from a historical and philosophical perspective. But I think it's pretty embarrassing to call yourself a Christian, but the atheist you're talking to has read the Bible and you haven't. Stories number 44. Am I the asshole for stopping financial support for my son after finding out he has a gambling addiction? I, 50s, have a 26-year-old son who lives on his own and works a good job in marketing. He's always been a responsible young man in my eyes, but recently he started reaching out to me for financial help. He said he had big expenses that he needed assistance with, and as a parent, I was more than happy to help him out when he asked. A couple of weeks ago, I visited him unexpectedly. While I was at his place, I noticed that he had left his bank statements out on the table. I glanced at them, and I couldn't believe what I saw. The majority of his money was going to online casinos, and there were large amounts of cash withdrawals. It was all adding up, and it became clear that he had been using the money I had been sending him to fuel a gambling addiction. When I confronted my son about it, I asked him what the big expenses were that he'd been claiming he needed money for. He couldn't give me any clear answers. He just kept saying things like, "It's personal," or "I'll explain later," but never really clarified what these supposed expenses were. At that point, I knew something wasn't adding up. I told him that I could no longer support him financially unless he sought professional help for his gambling. I made it clear that I wouldn't continue enabling his addiction by giving him money. He got really upset, calling me unsupportive and accusing me of betraying him. He insists that he doesn't need help and that he'll figure it out on his own, but I don't think he realizes the gravity of the situation. I love my son, but I'm trying to do what's best for him in the long run. I don't want to enable this behavior any longer, but I'm also feeling torn. I'm just not sure if I'm doing the right thing by cutting him off financially, especially since he's so angry with me. Am I the asshole for stopping my financial support and telling him he needs professional help to deal with his gambling addiction? Stories number 45. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my stepmother walk me down the aisle because my mom is still alive? I, 28F, am getting married in a few months, and my dad suggested that both he and my stepmother walk me down the aisle. For context, my stepmother has been in my life since I was 10, and while I'm grateful for everything she's done, my biological mom is still alive and has always been involved in my life. When my dad brought this up, I told him I didn't feel comfortable with the idea. My stepmother may have helped raise me, but I want this moment to honor my mom as well as my dad. My mom has been looking forward to this day for years, and having my stepmother participate feels like it would overshadow her. Now my dad is upset, saying I'm ignoring everything my stepmother has done for me. My stepmother hasn't said anything directly, but I can tell she's hurt. My siblings are split on this. Some think I should let her do it to keep the peace, while others understand why I want to keep it between me, my dad, and my mom. My fiancé supports me but says I need to decide what will make me happiest on my big day. At this point, I'm torn. I love and respect my stepmother, but I feel like including her would be disrespectful to my mom, who's also very emotional about this. My dad thinks I'm being unfair and selfish. Am I the asshole for refusing to let my stepmother walk me down the aisle? Stories number 46. My boyfriend went on a family vacation and I'm upset about it. This is a vent post so I might delete this later. So some context, my boyfriend and I were going to visit his family for Christmas. It was going to be a 14-hour drive and I was super excited for it. Although I know how his family can be and all my plans for this little vacation would have been steamrolled. But I was willing to grin and bear it for my BF's sake. Well, a week or two before we were supposed to go, my mom had to have major spinal surgery and I had to cancel going with because she won't be able to drive and I would have to help her with a lot of things. Plus pick up some of the slack in the household. It has been a lot of work but I really don't mind taking care of her. She would have done the same for me if the roles were reversed and I love my mom. I know I'm probably being silly or being upset for no reason. My boyfriend went on his family vacation. He drove with his sister and her 2 daughters. He's having so much fun. He's doing all this stuff, like visiting a wine farm and going to the beach. And I'm at home, feeling so stupid for being mad at him. It's just, when his sister, he lives with his sister, got sick and had to have her gallbladder removed. I went and stayed with him for a month. I took her daughters to school every day, I washed laundry and dishes, I did the shopping. I did so much. And now that it's my mom that had surgery, he's off with his family. To make matters worse, he even forgot to call me on our anniversary. It was the 17th and he promised he would call and he didn't. It was bad enough that we couldn't spend it together but he didn't call. So please Reddit, am I being silly for being mad at him? I know I should be happy for him but I'm not. Edit 1, I was asked to help my BF's sister. I did ask him to help me. He said he couldn't. We've been dating for 2 years. His mom lives 14 hours away but the rest of his family, his sister, his brother, aunts, uncles all live this side. They get together often and his mom has visited often this year. I'm in a gap year so I could help his sister when she had surgery. My brother doesn't live with us but my dad does, they have both been incompetent when it comes to helping me care for my mom. I know it's not my BF's fault. I am just frustrated and I don't know how to control my emotions. I did not write this post in order to shame my boyfriend. I need advice with how I can control my emotions and not be upset with him for leaving. I also tried to call him on our anniversary and he told me he was busy and would call later, he didn't. Stories number 47. Am I the asshole for breaking up with my girlfriend because her mom insulted me? Advice needed. I, 24M, and my ex-girlfriend, 25F, decided to invite her family over for dinner. We wanted to do it at home since we thought it would be a better first introduction. We set the table, made nice food, everything was looking good. My girlfriend, who we will call Gwen, told me that her brother, 18M, would love to see my gaming room. I have no problems with her brother, so I agreed to show him. In my room, I had a lot of Marvel posters and figures since I really enjoy it, along with some other posters to shows and movies. Her brother, let's call Scott, indeed loved the room. I let him play on my console while we waited for Gwen to finish off the food. Gwen's mother walked into my room and gave me and Scott a disgusted bitch face. I said hello, but she just stared at the room. Why do you have this stuff? Are you 5? She asked. I was confused on what she was referring to, until she directly commented about one of my posters. You are 25, why are you obsessed with superheroes? Scott corrected her when she pointed at a character. That's actually a villain. Scott innocently said. He was just trying to make jokes, but Gwen's mom was not having it. She proceeded to call me immature and a terrible influence on Scott. When she was walking up the stairs, I heard her mumble a word I will not repeat, but it's about homosexuals. I didn't want to start anything, so I continued to let Scott play on the console, which was a superhero game, and I went on my phone. After we all finished eating, Gwen's mom pulled me aside. I personally believe you should see a doctor. Adult men shouldn't be playing with superhero figures or still watching kid shows. Something is wrong with you, and you better not let Scott grow up like you. I was astonished on how she said it like it was nothing. She left without saying goodbye to me or Gwen. That night, I decided to tell Gwen what her mom said, quoting everything as accurate as I could. No, she wouldn't say that. Gwen tried to cover up for her mom. I kept trying to tell her how I felt, but she said that I was being sensitive for taking it to heart. I was angry that Gwen automatically took her mom's side, even though I was hurt by what her mom said. I told Gwen that I don't want to get married if her mom would be my mother-in-law. I regret how I worded it, but now Gwen was infuriated. She yelled at me and said I was, another word I can't say, and that she thinks I'm a drama king. Right there on the spot I broke up with her. I can't see myself living the rest of my life with someone like that or with a family like hers, except Scott, he's chill. Am I the asshole for breaking up with her? Stories number 48. Am I the asshole for telling my mother she can't be there for the birth of my child? Advice needed. Backstory, my wife, 34F, and myself, 34M, are expecting a child in June. My wife doesn't have a great relationship with my mom. My mom has a history of overstepping boundaries and inserting her dominance where she can. I have a history of alcoholism, but I'm 6 years sober. My mother was under the impression that she was to be there for the birth. I explained that she would be welcome to meet the baby after it's born but not during. I didn't have the heart to tell her she stresses my wife out. I let her know that we wanted the child to build up its immune system before out-of-towners come in. I did mention the possibility of my wife's mother being there possibly. My mother told me I was a taker my whole life with a chance to give back. My father said I was ruining Christmas with the news. Is it really that big of a deal? My stance is firm, and if I roll over once they will push me for the rest of this kid's life to inset their will on them. Am I the asshole? Stories number 49. Being an adult is not what all these memes say. There is so much beauty in life if you look for it. There is so much more to life than being exhausted all the time, never going anywhere, small errands burning you out for a whole day, never seeing or making friends, and feeling ostracized. Do not let this content, which is so clearly coming from a ton of repost bots, frame your mentality. Read books. Go for walks in nature. Volunteer in your community. Ask the cute person at your workout for coffee. Play board games with friends. Listen to beautiful music. Meditate. Sit outside and watch the sun set. Do not let the digital spaces you're in let you believe that life is all bleak nothingness. Stories number 50. As usual, Boomer gets agitated at the grocery store. I was doing some grocery shopping around 5 p.m. and the store was really busy. It's nothing new since that time is usually the busiest and the holidays are next week. The lines were long all around, self-checkout as well as the cashier lanes. I'm standing in line and this boomer cuts in front of me. Normally I would say something, but I could tell that he was super agitated, shaking his head, mumbling the same old nonsense and waving his arms around. I let it go even though the self-checkout associate gives me a knowing look. When it's his turn, a whole 5 minutes later, he goes to the self-checkout with a conveyor belt, and proceeds to angrily scan and smash his own groceries, ruining his bread. The whole time complaining into the air about how no one wants to work anymore. He leaves, it's my turn, the associate and I look at each other, and we both just laugh. Boomers are horrible at grocery stores, especially when it's busy, and they always lose their minds when they have to use self-checkout. Stories number 51. Am I the asshole for calling my coworker work sister after she called me work husband in front of everyone? I, 34M, work in a small office and we have about 30 people working here. Mary, 35F, is one of my coworkers. We have been working together for 6 years now. We have 6 people in our department, and we have to frequently travel across the state as our work involves overseeing government projects. We always travel in a group of 2. Although my travel partner changes based on the project, Mary and I are generally put on similar projects and enjoy each other's company. My wife also likes Mary. Overall, we have a very healthy work relationship. On to the incident. Yesterday, we had a happy hour in our office, and we were all drinking after work hours and chatting. It was a group of around 10 people that stayed back. Mary was blabbering about how we both have been traveling together so much in the last year. She was roasting me for my habits while traveling, like always forgetting stuff in my hotel room, being sweaty and stinky when I join her for breakfast in mornings, because I go to hotel gym. Everyone was laughing and she was making it sound how unbearable I was to tag along, all in good fun. I also told some funny and sweet stories about her and agreed with her, saying that I can be difficult to be with sometimes. Mary came to me and hugged me tightly and told me that she loves me, and I am her work husband. It was all innocent on surface, but she might have been a bit drunk and just didn't let go of her tight hug. Also, I hate that phrase, as I do have a wife that I promise to be with forever, and not just in non-working hours. After a few seconds, I started becoming uncomfortable and also saw few people staring at us. So, to diffuse the situation, I took her hands off my shoulder and told her she was my work sister and that is why I love to annoy her so much. That seemed to have upset Mary and she left and went back to her desk and was sobbing silently. I tried to apologize to her, but she told me how embarrassing the whole situation was. She said that she just meant work husband in platonic way, but me calling her work sister made her sound like a creep in front of the whole office. She was also angry that I aggressively removed her hands from my shoulders while hugging. I tried to reason with her that I do not like the work husband phrase, and also people gave dirty looks when she said it. So, I was just trying to make sure people do not take her words in the wrong way. We talked for a few minutes afterwards and Mary calmed down. She hugged me again and left. I felt really guilty afterwards because I can see Mary's point. I made her sound like a creep by implying that she meant something inappropriate when she called me her work husband. However, I was a bit uncomfortable in that situation and just did not want people to call us that, or assume something wrong. Am I the AH for calling Mary my work sister? I am sitting in my office writing this and a bit worried if I embarrassed Mary in front of everyone. Update, 5 days later. I posted this on about calling my coworker Mary my work sister after she tried to call me her work husband in front of the entire office. A lot of you are asking for update, but that sub does not allow me to post update, so I am writing it here. Thanks everyone for your comments and giving me confidence that I did not do anything wrong or inappropriate. As I was sitting in office the next day, I knew things would be a bit awkward between Mary and me. Mary ignored me the whole morning. Initially, I was planning to go and apologize to her, but after the post, I decided that I do not need to do that, as I should be the one who was offended. Everyone in the office could see that we were acting weird, and I heard some people gossiping about us. One of the ladies also came to me and asked me if I want to talk about Mary and me. Around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, I was sitting in my office working. Mary came into my office and closed the door behind her. She was angry at me and started saying that I need to stop being an asshole and stop ignoring her. I told her to sit and to talk about what is going on. She told me that she feels humiliated, and everyone has been starting at her the whole morning because of what I did. I also stood my ground and told her that I was okay with her making fun of me, but calling me her work husband and hugging me in front of everyone for a long time made the situation awkward. She told me to get over myself and that I should know exactly what she meant. Mary said that I made a big deal of what was supposed to be a joke and made it awkward for everyone. She said calling someone work husband is a normal thing and just means that she knows me intimately like a spouse would. She said that because we spend so much time traveling together, she knows all the intimate details of how I behave outside work. I stopped her and told her that I felt offended by the term work husband because I have a wife and I do not want people to use that term to describe our relationship. I told her that she would not understand as she is single, but as a married man, I really do not want anyone to describe me as a husband in any capacity. She said that I am again misinterpreting what she was saying. She felt that as we have known each other more time than I have been married, she knows me more intimately than even my wife. I have no idea why she feels that way, and I also behave like her husband when we travel together. She went on about how we go out to dinners together after work, how I always insist on having breakfast together in morning, to plan our actions of the day, and I walk around in my underwear, referring to my gym shorts, around her in mornings. She also talked about how we spend hours talking to each other during road trips and how I am the only man she can trust with any secret in her life. She said that I am the definition of work husband, and I am just in denial. I was a bit angry at this point. I told her that I do all that because I consider her my friend and she is delusional if she feels she knows me more intimately than my wife. I told her I do not want to hear that term again and it is extremely disrespectful to my marriage. Only one woman gets to call me her husband and that is my wife. Moreover, if my actions are giving her such ideas, maybe we need to stop being friends. She became apologetic afterwards and told me that she did not mean to disrespect my wife, and it was not her intention. She apologized to me and told me to just let it go. She said that she loves traveling with me and she does not want anything to change between us. She again said that I am misinterpreting her statement and just wants to move on. She came to hug me again, but I just told her it was okay and stepped back. I also talked to my wife about the incident that night. As expected, my wife was angry at Mary and told me that she hates the term work husband. She asked me if Mary has ever flirted with me during our trips or has a crush on me. I truthfully told her that I really have not felt that way and she may have just said that because she was a bit drunk and is now being stubborn about it. My wife said that she feels a bit uncomfortable about Mary now and says that it's strike one for Mary and I need to try and put more distance between us while traveling. If she ever repeat the same behavior again, I should report her to HR. I promised my wife that I would try to reduce my interactions with Mary outside work hours and be more guarded around her. Update: thanks everyone for the comments and explaining the urgency of the situation. I discussed it with my wife and have set up meetings with my manager and HR today. I plan to not file a complaint, but document what happened last week and why it made me uncomfortable. I do not have any upcoming travels this week due to holidays but have to travel next Tuesday with her to a work site. I will discuss with my manager on what my options are. However, I feel a little distance between Mary and me for some time would be the right solution for now. Update: 2 months later. I wrote a while ago regarding my coworker friend, Mary, being upset with me for calling her my work sister when she called me her work husband in front of everyone. I'm sorry to leave everyone hanging, but the next few weeks were busy, and the issue was eventually resolved. Thanks to everyone for the comments, they really helped me when I talked to my manager about the situation. However, the last week has been crazy, so I wanted to get some opinions on what I should do next. After my last post, my wife and I were no longer comfortable with Mary's behavior. Although a part of me thought I was overreacting and that it was just part of Mary's personality, I felt the need to protect myself. I requested a meeting with my manager and HR to document my side of the story. I wrote down everything and told them about the incident at the party, as well as Mary coming into my office and the comments she made. I made it clear that while I did not want them to take action against her, I wanted to emphasize that her behavior made me uncomfortable, especially her comments about knowing me better than my wife and remarks about my shorts. My manager had already heard about the incident at the happy hour, as everyone in the office was talking about it. He told me he would try to shake up the travel schedule to minimize our travel together. The issue was that only 4 people in our company generally work on off-site audits, and the other 2 co-workers did not want to split up because they claimed they worked well together. As a result, I continued traveling with Mary for the next couple of weeks, but it was awkward, and I kept my distance. My manager then called Mary and me to his office and informed us that he was planning to train a new auditor, Carolina, 26F, and set up a schedule where she would travel with me for 1 week and then with Mary the following week. We were asked to train her. I liked this arrangement because it meant I no longer had to travel with Mary. Carolina turned out to be a great travel buddy, and I made sure not to get too comfortable with her. I always dressed professionally when we went for breakfasts, avoided late-night drinks, and maintained healthy boundaries. Things were great until last week. Last Tuesday, I could feel everyone staring at me when I entered the office, and I was immediately called to a meeting with my manager and HR. HR asked if I had anything to report regarding Carolina and if she had made any advances toward me during our work trips. I told them no, that Carolina had been very professional the entire time. I asked why I was being interrogated, and they told me they couldn't disclose any further details, but that Carolina was being investigated by HR for inappropriate conduct. I left the meeting, and Mary came to my office, asking what had happened. She mentioned that she was also told Carolina would no longer be traveling with us and that we were asked to travel together again. I told her I had no idea what was going on. I messaged Carolina to see if she was okay and if she needed to talk. She asked if she could come to my office, and I agreed. Carolina explained that someone anonymously sent messages to her boyfriend, posing as someone from the office over the weekend. The message included screenshots of Carolina sending some inappropriate pictures she had taken in her hotel rooms during our travels, and flirtatious messages. This person claimed to her boyfriend that Carolina was trying to cheat with him at work, and he was just trying to warn them. Her boyfriend went crazy after seeing the pictures, ghosted her, and then sent the messages to HR as revenge. Carolina was in tears, telling me that she had only taken those pictures for her boyfriend and had no idea how they got leaked or how those messages even existed. Her boyfriend was furious because he also received the exact pictures from Carolina and knew they weren't fake. I consoled Carolina, but she's in deep trouble, as our workplace takes such things very seriously, because we work on government contracts, and I'm sure everyone suspects I am the anonymous messenger. I was told that the matter would be investigated, and Mary and I would be working together on the project again. My manager said there was nothing he could do and also mentioned that they might go through my emails and messages on my company phone as part of the investigation into Carolina. Mary seems very happy about the whole situation and keeps talking about how excited she is to revisit the restaurants and bars we used to frequent during off-site trips. She also keeps referring to Carolina as that pervert. The whole thing is just crazy. My wife, of course, believes that I would never do anything inappropriate with Carolina and that I wasn't the anonymous messenger. However, her conspiracy theory is that Mary, who was also traveling with Carolina, may have unlocked her phone and accessed the photos. It feels far-fetched, but the fact is, I'm not thrilled about traveling with Mary again. I don't think I have any other recourse to get off this project except leaving the job, which isn't possible at this time. I know many of you work in HR, and I would appreciate any advice on what I can do next. Update, 3.5 months later. I wrote a post 6 months ago regarding calling my coworker, Mary, work sister, and upsetting her in the process. Things got really weird afterwards and I was paired with another coworker, Carolina, for work trips. Someone anonymously tipped Carolina's boyfriend that Carolina was engaged in messaging explicit pictures to her coworker and he in turn reported her to our HR as revenge before breaking off with her. No one explicitly said it, but I could see that everyone suspected me to be the other person. After that, Mary and I were again asked to travel together despite of my reservations, mostly because others did not want to travel with me. I am sorry I did not write an update because nothing noteworthy happened until last Friday and my wife, Brooke, and I have been arguing ever since about what to do next. I have been applying for similar positions in the last few months, but it is hard to find a similar job in this market. Brooke has expressed her reservations on me traveling with Mary but also understands that I would stop traveling with her if I could. We have bills and mortgage, and I cannot just leave my job. Just like most commenters on previous post, she believes that Mary framed Carolina. I have been extremely professional with Mary during our travels. Things are not as before where I would consider her my close friend. I am always guarded around her and try to spend most of my time in my room after work. Carolina stuck around for around a month after I wrote the post, when the HR was investigating the incident. I tried to support her initially and also told my manager that she has been very professional. However, rumors started spreading around that I am going above and beyond to save her job, and she spent a lot of time in my office talking to me alone. We mutually decided that the optics were not good and started distancing ourselves. She resigned a month after the incident because she told me she cannot take it anymore. From what I know, she is still looking for a job. Mary, on the other hand, seems to be happy on our work trips. Although I act extremely professional around her, a part of me knows that she might be the person who framed Carolina. I have no proof, just intuition. I also feel Mary is the one spreading rumor about Carolina and me in office. She always plans for dinners after work and sometimes asks me to get a drink at the hotel bar as before. I generally avoid drinking on these trips now. There were a few times where she insisted that I get a beer, but I told her that I am already on thin ice at work, and promised Brooke I will not drink on these trips. This has not stopped her from getting hammered and me having to drop her to her room at the end of the day few times. Brooke has been very supportive through the whole time and has never once suspected me or blamed me for anything. She has asked me to not drink on these trips and also to make sure I call her every night when I reach my room and when I go to sleep. I also voluntarily installed location tracking app on my phone, so that she has a peace of mind to know where I am during these trips. On to the incident from last Friday. We had a Christmas party last Friday at our office. Brooke joined me, and the party was great. Mary asked me for a dance, but I declined, and Mary did not look thrilled about it. Brooke was lovely, and we danced together for most of the night. There was one point where I was talking to my manager and few other colleagues, and Brooke was talking to my manager's wife. Mary interrupted them and started bragging about how she has to take care of me during work trips since I am so clumsy. Brooke also joined in on how I am clumsy and forgetful I am at home. Mary then told Brooke that I make her feel safe on the trips and told her about the incident where she got drunk and how I took care of her by dropping her to her room and sitting by her bedside until she fell asleep. Mary insisted that I am a gentleman and nothing happened, but how I also show care for her. Brooke knew about the incidents when I dropped he to her room. However, at no time did I enter Mary's room. Brooke did not say anything at that time, but when we got home, this turned into a huge argument. I told Brooke that I did not enter her room and just led her to her room and immediately called her and told her about the incident. I even showed her the text conversation where I messaged Brooke after leaving the restaurant and when I got to the room along with timestamps. After Brooke calmed down, she told me that she believes me, but it's crazy how fluently Mary lied to her, in front of my manager's wife. She told me that Mary is just trying to plant a seed of doubt in her head, and she cannot pretend anymore that she is okay with Mary. She told me that Mary ruined Carolina's career and if she does not get her way, she might do the same to me. Brooke has asked me if I can draw a red line on traveling with Mary, and if my manager does not accept, I should just resign. I feel Brooke is right, and nothing is more important to me than her. However, it feels so shitty to be in this situation where all my hard work to reach this point in my career will be ruined. I do not know what to do next. I am really hoping to get advice and ideas on what I can do here. I just feel so trapped and not sure what I can do at this point. Stories number 52. Am I the asshole for not working on forgiving my sister in therapy even though we're in family therapy? I, 17F, stopped talking to my sister, 14F, 8 months ago. We always had fights, sometimes even bad or annoying fights. But 8 months ago we got into a fight and my sister told me she wished I died with my mom so she could have a perfect family instead of me always reminding everyone that it won't ever happen. She said it like she meant it too. She told me I was the worst person she ever knew and she didn't get why I had to be alive and I kept her mom from having a kid of her own and making the perfect family. My sister realized when she stopped that I wasn't reacting the same to our fight. Most of our fights I roll my eyes and walk away. But she stopped and started looking guilty but I jumped in and told her I wish I had a real sibling but I'm an only child now so we can't all get what we want. She tried to apologize but I completely shut her out. Our dad heard about the fight and he told me she's younger and I have to forgive her. I told him I don't have to do anything and I'm not forgiving her for saying that because I know she means it. He told me I was mean back to her saying I wished I had a real sibling and that I'm an only child when I'm not. I told him that I'm done so we're not sisters anymore. He tried talking to me about it but I told him I was done. So he and my stepmom decided we all needed family therapy. A lot of stuff came up. How our mom died when I was 5 and my sister was 2, almost 3. How I remembered mom and my sister didn't and when our dad married stepmom our relationship and what she is to us is different. To my sister she's mom. To me she's dad's wife. To my sister mom isn't anything to her and she doesn't love her, something she told me so many times. To me she's my only mom and I miss her and love her and having my stepmom didn't change it. I talked about how mom's birthday and anniversary are ignored. How my dad and stepmom made me hide most of mom's things even though they were already in my room, because my stepmom felt disrespected seeing them everywhere in my room. My sister said she hates that I won't let us be a family of 4 and she hates that I won't accept my stepmom because she thinks people who are alive deserve the love instead of dead people. She also thinks it's unfair because my stepmom and dad never had kids together because dad already had 2 so she thinks I'm selfish to deny her 2 kids. My stepmom said she wished I had accepted her and loved her but she knows neither thing happened. When we got to the last fight my sister told the therapist she was so angry at me because when she was out with my stepmom she was asked about having kids of her own and my stepmom looked sad. She said it made her feel bad for my stepmom and she hated me for doing that. And when she saw me she thought of all the times I showed my stepmom she's not my mom and when I put remembering mom before my stepmom and it made her want me to know just how she felt. I interrupted and said I knew she meant it and that I had told my dad but he didn't believe me. I was asked to comment on the fight and I said I was just done. I said we've always fought about my stepmom and I'm tired of being told I'm wrong to love my mom instead of the woman my dad married. I said I accepted a long time ago that my sister loved her and calls her mom but it doesn't mean I need to. We went over and over stuff for weeks about the fight and I was asked to work on some forgiveness exercises and I said no. I said I'm not going to work on forgiving her and I'm done like I said repeatedly. The therapist asked why I was there and I told her I was forced to come. But I never agreed to work on things. My sister started crying and begging me to give her a chance and my dad was pissed at me for making my sister cry and for not doing what the whole point of therapy is for. He told me I was a disappointment and how I should figure out what I'll do in 2 months because he won't support me terrorizing my sister with lack of forgiveness. Stories number 53. Am I the asshole here for telling husband my son will go to best school and his kid's education is his responsibility? I am 32, with a 5-year-old son and next April, he will enter first standard. He is currently in preschool nearby and next year, I plan to send him to best private school in area. Its annual tuition is around $20,000, not America. I studied there. My husband studied there. We met there. I lost my husband when my son was 3 months old due to cancer. I work for my parents' business and from husband I got life insurance, savings, and the house went to my son and me. I invested most in my son's name and some for myself. I met my current husband 38, 3 back years. He has a 6-year-old son and 10-year-old daughter. We got married in 2023. His children go to decent school too. His ex-wife and him share the funds. We moved to his house. So my husband said send either his kids to same school as my son or my son to theirs. I told him my son education can't be compromised. And his children education is his and his ex-wife's responsibility. We share family budget clothes travel and gifts expense. But not education and children's savings which was made clear from day one. He says he doesn't want his children to feel second-class citizen to my son who will go to most expensive school. I told him he and his ex-wife can compromise their savings and pay for their children. Frankly the kids in my stepchildren's school come from terrible backgrounds and I don't want my son to mingle with crowd there. Even if it is private school, it has drug-going crowd. Spoiled kids with terrible families. I can't afford another $40,000 for stepchildren education. Frankly their education is their parents' responsibility and it was made clear even before wedding. He says I am being elitist, but as mother my son's education comes first. The school where I am going to send my son throws such kids out and most kids come from prestigious families with great network. I want him to become successful like his father. And our marriage has hit a rock. He says his kids will resent my son. But I told him, even before marriage I told him that I will send my son to this school only. He said he thought he would change my mind. My husband is sleeping in other room and I am missing him. But my child comes first. Edit. I know private schools have such issues too. But they tackle it better here and it's better to take less risk than sending my son to wolves. LOL people saying I should pay rent to my husband in his fully owned house. When I asked him to shift to my house and it was his decision that I should shift with him. I own my house, only child of my parents, on deed as well and my parents want us to be multi-generational house. Which is common. I am saving nothing on rent. It was mutual decision to shift to his house. By the way foreign vacation, I paid for costs more than the rent he would have earned. I didn't know I have to pay rent to my own husband. Also to add my late husband house is 50-50 to me and my son. I can't sell it or anything unless my son decides it in adulthood. So we had both homes to live. To clarify to people who are saying I am lying in comments. He didn't want to shift. Then he should pay vacation money. I assure you. He won't be happy. If I have to pay him rent. Am I the asshole here? Stories number 54. My 38M wife, 35F, lost a lot of weight to gain the attention of her work crush. How do I move forward? After we had our kids my wife gained a lot of weight, like 80 pounds. And honestly, I was fine with it. I thought she was still hot and my desire for intimacy never waned. So for a while she was fine with her weight too. Fast forward 5 years and all of a sudden, my wife gets really into fitness and nutrition. She buys a Peloton, goes on a strict diet and loses all the weight and then some. She looks like she did when I met her in her early 20s. She looks great but like I said I thought she looked great heavy too. Then one day last week she comes home from work and I can tell something is really bothering her. I ask what's wrong but she's just evasive and distant. This lasts a few days before she finally breaks. She tells me that the reason she was so determined to lose weight was because she wanted attention from the guy at work she has a crush on. She said that all the women have a crush on this guy and she just wanted his attention. Well, apparently, she got too much of it on the day she came home so upset. He had apparently been flirting with my wife for a few weeks, and that day he asked her if she wanted to have dinner with him after work at a restaurant that just so happens to be in a hotel. He heavily implied that they could get a room afterward or even skip the restaurant and just get room service. She tells me that to this point it was all just fantasy in her head, but now it was real and she snapped out of it. She realized that she'd gone way too far. She declined his invitation of course and felt she needed to confess what she'd done to me. I was crushed and still am. First, I'm actually upset, she told me. I know this is some form of cheating, but I didn't suspect anything. She could have just kept this to herself and not pass her burden on to me. So the thought comes to my mind that maybe she wants me to dump her so she can be with this guy, and that's why she is telling me. So I ask her that and she breaks down crying. That's not what she wants. She says she loves me and just wanted to be honest with me and apologize. Nothing physical happened, I'm pretty sure of it. I can track her phone and also have pretty free access to it. She never hides it, leaves it everywhere, and that phone never leaves work. I suppose she could be cheating on her lunch break and leave the phone, but I just don't think she'd leave the phone and not be available for the kids. So I don't think I want a divorce. I love her and we have kids. But it's just eating at me that she did all the work she did to be attractive for another man. I don't know where to go or even what to ask of her. I just need some advice. Update, 8 days later. I want to thank everyone for commenting on my original post. I got some good advice, but above all I just needed to vent, so thanks for listening. I talked more with my wife after my first post in an attempt to understand why she did what she did. From what she tells me, every woman in the office swoons over this guy. They all flirted with him, my wife included, and he never flirted back. A few of the single ones have basically thrown themselves at him but still got nothing. So my wife thinks to herself that when she was younger and thinner she could and did have guys that looked like him chase after her. So she wanted to prove to herself that she still could get the attention of a hot young guy if she wanted. To answer a common question, yes, she was very heavily flirting with him. But she says that he knew she was married, and since she didn't plan on ever being with him alone, it was harmless. Now that I think about it, she was in a great mood in the few weeks prior to her breaking down. She was kind of all over me as well. We hadn't had that much sex in years. She tells me that it wasn't so much the guy at work heating her up but how his attention made her feel. Which again, I always given her plenty of attention. Why that wasn't enough to make her feel good about herself I don't know. And that's really what hurts me most. What I thought of her didn't matter. She says what I thought did matter, but she asked me if she walked past me on the street at her heaviest, would I turn and look? I don't do that with anyone, but I would still have found her attractive. But I guess I see the point she is making. When she was younger she did get a lot of head turns and she got used to that. She liked the attention, and when that all went away it made her depressed. In the end I think we will be okay, I'll get over this, but as of now I'm not letting her know that. I told her she needs to go to therapy and work on why she needs this external validation from people she doesn't care about. She agreed to do that. Like I said in my original post, I don't think she did anything physical with him. We have lifestyle 360 and I see where she goes, and she goes straight from home to the office and back every day. She either brings lunch or gets something delivered. I just don't think that happened. I acted cold toward her for a few days. It maybe have been little cruel, but I wanted her to sweat a little and think I was questioning the relationship. Selfishly I wanted to see her panic and try to win me back. I felt I needed to see she cares what I think of her. She was a mess, bordering on desperate. She cried a lot, which will eventually broke me. I love her and couldn't stand to see her sad. So in short, she is going to go to therapy and we will do couples counseling down the road. Thanks for all the advice everyone. Stories number 55. It took nearly 40 years, but it finally happened. A fellow masshole baptized me with a Dunk's coffee spiked off my windshield this morning. Definitely not a regular, had extra cream. Was taking a left onto the Revere Beach Parkway from Chelsea Everett. Guy was in the left turn lane and held everyone up trying to get back into the center lane. Car in front of me, myself and the car behind me gave some very gentle, not aggressive honks to get him to move up and out of the way. Apparently, I was either just the easiest target or was jealous of my car. Or maybe he just knew it was finally my time to fully embrace being a North Shore masshole. I can't wait to now be able to baptize other fellow drivers into full masshole-dom. Maybe a little aggressive. Update. If you didn't see the OP, you can find it here. It took nearly 40 years, but it finally happened. A fellow masshole baptized me with a Dunk's coffee spiked off my windshield this morning. I remember it like was yesterday. This wonderfully, beautifully, angry man in a small blue Toyota Yaris took exception to multiple cars honking at him for blocking a left turn lane and decided I would be the beneficiary of his glorious rage. I obviously never expected to see him again. What would be the chances? This happened, as you may recall, crossing from Everett into Chelsea, as I was heading to work in East Boston. A key detail is I street park often on a street which is very much not gentrified and very much long-time EB residents. A few days after the baptism I saw a small, blue Toyota Yaris parked on the same block and had a little chuckle to myself, what if? But no way. Right? I've it seen a few more times over the past weeks, and each time the details have stuck out a little more. The creative body tape work holding on the front bumper, the other dings and dents, the stickers. What if? But still, no way, right? But today, I saw him. I came back from lunch and pulled up to park and saw him with his driver's side window down talking to another resident. It was him. All that was missing was him screaming what I am sure were the most gloriously offensive insults at me the morning of the baptism. My question is, what do I do now? I would love to thank him for welcoming me into the fellowship of the mass whole and granting me now the right to baptize the next acolyte, but I bet he doesn't even remember me. I feel like it would be awkward to just approach him. Do I write him a letter? If so, I think I have a pretty good template to follow here with some obvious tweaks. I think the best play is that I maybe just leave a Dunk's gift card on his windshield next time I see it. I feel like he would know who it was from. Thoughts? Suggestions? Fourth wall break. I'm not kidding, I'm like 95% sure it's the same dude, and my real internal monologue is now maybe I park a block down the road. Stories number 56. Am I the asshole for refusing to share my Christmas gift from work? For context, both my wife, 43F, and I, 42M, started new jobs this year. My job has better conditions in general, but I also pay for almost our expenses, rent, food bills, etc., as she's working part-time. One of the benefits she gets is discounts for many brand products from different shops, so she's been able to get herself some nice things. When I asked if I could get something I was looking for with her discount, she said she didn't feel comfortable doing that. Alright, fine. Well, last week my company gave me a gift card with €200, and when she found out, she started planning on how to spend the money without even asking me. I simply told her I didn't know what I was going to use the money for, as I have until the end of June 2025 to use it, but that I didn't want to spend it on stuff for the house as I wanted to go towards something I want. Now she's mad at me saying I'm being selfish, but I honestly don't think I am. For context, when she used her discounts to get stuff, it was all for her, not for us, so I don't see why me doing the same would make me the bad guy here. Stories number 57. My turn. I need your with you vibes. I have posted a bit about my living apart partner. He is hard. We used to live together. Now we don't. He's a Trumper. We avoid politics, homeless support. And I realize there can be redeeming qualities in jackasses. Tonight, I was complaining about how medical offices always call when you walk away from your phone. Explaining how I got up for 1 second because a coworker had forgotten her coat to rush to the front door and give her coat. And of course, I got a call. He said, "Why didn't you take your phone with you?" I said it was just to give her coat. He said, "Why didn't you say that, you stupid cunt?" I hung up. 25 years now. I texted him and said, "I don't deserve that. I don't call you names. Don't call me names. Honestly, no one deserves that. Much less people you say that you love. So much history and experiences and shared family things over all these years. And I'm 69 years old, it's not like I could find a new relationship. He does a lot of things for me around my house, fix his stuff, helps me out. As my son says, people can be a jackass and still have redeeming qualities. Anyway, sorry for going on, but that's how we kinda do here, right? Stories number 58. My 23F partner, 24M, of 2 years thinks I betrayed him because I messaged a woman he was texting. Do I deserve this? I really don't want to make this a long post, so I'll try to summarize. Basically, my BF, 24M, got me, 23F, a new phone a few weeks ago. It's the exact same phone he has. I kept mistaking my phone for his and his phone for mine the first 3 or 4 days. Well, on one of those days shortly after I got the phone, I woke up at 5 a.m. to tend to barn animals. I accidentally grabbed his phone. I clicked a notification for a message and read it. Once I read it, I realized I had his phone. But the message I read concerned me. It was with a woman coworker, 20F, he has, and it was along the lines of, I really wish I could have said Happy Thanksgiving to you in person. That alarmed me, so, shamefully, I read through a lot of their messages. A lot of them were upsetting. Nothing downright flirtatious, but memes about flirting, a kissy emoji, complimenting her eyes. General texts that are eerily similar to ones I would receive. I confessed immediately and asked him what his relationship to her was. He assured me immediately that it was just him being friendly, that she was like a sister to him, etc. He then said he wouldn't talk to her outside of work anymore, but he requested that he is allowed to tell her exactly why they can't talk. Because of me. It obviously made me horrendously insecure, and then I felt guilty for taking away a friendship from him and being made out like a villain. I decided in the heat of the moment that I'd just message her. I explained what happened, I explained that she is gorgeous and that it just made me feel so uncomfortable. I explained that he told me nothing was going on, but I just wanted to clear the air and not come across like a devil. It wasn't right of me to message her. When he found out about it, he was pissed. He said I lost all his trust, that I went behind his back, that I threatened his standing and reputation at his workplace. He stopped talking to me for 4 days straight. Now he's treating me like I'm on probation. Every little wrong I do he seems to be tallying up. He just says, good to know. Then moves on. He straight up told me he isn't sure anymore about marrying me because I messaged her. The question and advice I want is, did I really screw up that bad? I regret messaging her, because it wasn't my right to, but to downright say he doesn't trust me anymore because of it and he isn't sure about marriage anymore feels so much like overkill. I'm hurting too. Reading those messages wrecked my self-esteem and I still don't feel pretty or special anymore. Did I really screw up that bad? What can I do to fix it? I've already apologized to her. I just don't know. He is counting absolutely every small mistake against me. Do I deserve this? TLDR, I found concerning messages on my partner's phone. I got so emotional that I reached out to the woman he was messaging and explained the situation to her. Now he is saying I've lost all his trust and he isn't sure about continuing our relationship. He has started nitpicking every wrong like another reason he can't marry me. Do I deserve this?